We are live. So, welcome to round two of Thursday Nighter. We have a new special guest, very strong player here, going to comment on our games, FIDE Master. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, thanks Chris for having me. I'm just Singh from India. I'm a PDA master. Also have one I am now, and I'll be analyzing the tournament games with Chris today. All right.
Perfect, thank you. So, here we go on board one. We have, so unfortunately, so everyone knows we're
I'm a
actually
PDA
going to have,
master.
oh,
Also
let
have
me
one
mute
I am now.
this. Um, Unfortunately, we actually have some technical difficulties because Leechus is down today. So we can't use our usual broadcast interface. So we're not actually going to be able to analyze variations even. So everyone better get their analysis stats on and get ready to calculate themselves because we're not going to have engine evals or be able to show sample variations. But we will be able to put ourselves in the player's shoes tonight. So on board one here, we have Robert Donahue against Miles. And Robert, every single game, he plays an aggressive opening. So this makes perfect sense that he played King's Gambit. Um, yeah, he played Latvian Gambit. Uh, he plays really crazy openings, so he likes to get aggressive.
Good, it's good to surprise your opponent each and every time if you play
Yeah,
openings like King's Gambit.
yeah. I mean, he gets pretty crazy though. So sometimes he takes it too far, but King's Gambit probably not too crazy for him. So I'm not an E5 player. You are yourself. So what do you think about this D5 system? Is this a pretty good
Okay,
answer?
D5 is okay. D5 is the I think the main move only, not even the second main move, but it is the main move. And after this, the most played response as white is e takes d5. But I think the move that has been played in the game is knight f3, which is the second best response. Okay, I think the knight f3 should be considered as a move. It's just, let's say, knight f3 has just around 5,000 games in the database. ED5 has around 11,000 games in the database. But it's not like neither three is a new move, so it would be a better one. The score remains in favor of white after ED5 only. ED5 has 55% score in favor of white, whereas knight f3 has probably around 50%. But okay, it is mostly played to just get your opponent out of preparation. But I think uh,
Yeah.
black is played correctly here.
Okay. So
Yep,
continuing
or
down some, and Robert definitely not one to pay too much attention to database statistics. So he's probably playing with just some ideas he studied. So,
yeah, most likely. But
um,
okay,
how's
it's
this
good
going so
till
far?
now.
Everything looking good for both sides?
Yes, knight f6 is fine. Okay, this is also fine. All this is theory, and we have a lot of games in this variation.
Okay, it looks like you can
Okay,
get your knight out in front of the c pawn, even though it's not that anti-positional
queen
because you don't
e2
need to
is
break
a
down the center.
diversion actually. Instead of queen e2, there's an interesting move for white. Can you just take back two moves back? Yeah, this position, a move that has pretty good score from white side is bishop b3.
Got it. Just dropping the
Bishop
bishop
b3,
back.
which is yeah, we're just dropping the bishop back, and now we are just passing the move to black. Let's say. What would black do here? If black continues simple knight c6, then the idea behind bishop b3 was to go d4 followed by c4, and then black cannot play recklessly. There will be some trouble in the center.
It makes sense. I mean, who likes to have a loose pieces fall off? So I can see wanting to anchor that piece, and
Yeah,
that kind of
should be.
I always like to ask your opponent questions too. I feel like that really taxes their resources if you do that throughout a long game. Um, always make them make decisions, and
Right.
eventually they run out of energy that way. Versus if you like capture a piece, they got to recapture. That's not too hard. Doesn't take too much effort, but you play a nice tension holding move like bishop b3 and can kind of already start to ask your opponent questions. But okay, we got queen e2 in the game, knight c6, d4, finally taking some center,
Mm.
And looks like
That's
black's getting ready to castle queenside, so we're going to have opposite side castle, potentially. Okay, and white just kind of, this is interesting. They don't mind that they're going to get their structure shattered because they're probably wanting to use this b file against queenside
yeah.
castle.
And the second reason is that okay, even if you get double pawns, I don't think it is much of a problem. The d4 pawn is pretty solid, and probably the light square bishops might get exchanged, and you have some potential targets, either the f7 pawn, or if black allows bishop takes e6 from right side, the e6 pawn gets weak. The f4 pawn is obviously always a target. But once black takes on c3, I don't think there is any potential target for black to attack in white's camp. Because the d4 pawn is already pretty solid then, black has to solve a few problems.
And okay, we got black already starting to blink first and resolve the tension. Um, so what do you think of that? Do you think, would you consider just castling queenside here, or
Yeah, I
do you
would
think?
consider castling queenside seriously in this position, but I think the problem is that okay, white has some interesting ideas. Let's say if it is long castle here, white may jump his knight to e4, attacking the queen on d6, gaining a tempo, then probably continuing simply with c3. If white gets a chance to go knight g5 later on, white may go knight g5 or knight c5, maybe b4 later in the middle game, trying to build up a potential attack. So I think that is what Black thought and just took on c3 so that there are no knights jumping around the board.
Yeah, who wants to have knights jumping on you? I can see
Yeah,
this.
that's
And
right.
Robert actually is known as a fierce calculator, so he's really good at calculating, and he's also really good at end games. So he kind of, it makes sense actually to me if that you can take a lot more risk in the opening if you're just awesome at end games because you can kind of save bad positions and turn bad
Yeah,
positions
that's right.
around.
Yeah,
So
that's right. You're
okay,
confident enough, why not go for it?
and Miles just taking up the challenge, castling queenside into the open B file. So I myself might be a little nervous, might think about playing like bishop e7, kingside castle. But what do you think of this?
Okay, what I'm thinking right now is what if we just take the bishop on e6 and then later on we are playing knight g5. I'm not able to see a direct refutation to that.
Yeah, the square's looking pretty weak on f7.
The f7 is pretty weak, the
Family
e6
fork
will be
there.
weak. Yeah, that's right. Because I mean, how is black going to deal with it if you just take on e6? Okay, so it's like black has an extra pawn for now. So let's just try to calculate a bit. We take on e6. Let's assume black takes back with the queen. Because if you take back with the pawn after knight g5, I think there are more problems to solve because you have to stop the knight f7 anyhow. And I don't think it's really easy to do that because bishop takes f4 will also be in air if you just take back on e6 with the pawn. I mean, if you take back on e6 with the pawn directly without playing queen takes e6. So I think after bishop takes e6, queen takes e6 should be the ideal response. I'm not sure though because it just weakens your e6 pawn.
Yeah, and then you got to
Bishop
trade
takes
queens,
e6
right?
is really tempting. I'm not sure why he did not play. Okay, he played knight g5, which is also
Yeah.
very interesting.
So if they play, just to clarify on the variation though, so bishop takes, queen takes, you'd have to trade queens then, right? So you can get the,
Yes, and then okay, there
and
you
then
have
you can
options.
jump,
You
and then
can
you can
either
jump knight g5 right away, or maybe think about something else.
I think just take the pawn on f4 would give you sufficient long-term advantage due to that e6 pawn. Just because if you go knight g5, black may play rook to e8, and then okay, there are no threats surrounding knight f7. And if you now play bishop takes f4, I think I can simply play something like bishop a3 or something. I'm not sure. Or later on, kick the knight and then push e5. And my knight at g5 is not doing anything. so I don't want my knight there. I can just simply take the pawn on f4 directly. That is what I was thinking.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But Roberts, he's not materialistic, and not wanting to grind out a nice positional advantage. He wants to try to checkmate him right out of the opening, or get some sort of
Knight g5 is super
swashbuckling
interesting.
attack. So
Yeah,
this is
got
very
it.
Robert move. Oh wow, and Miles playing knight takes d4. So that
And this
wasn't
is
on
what
my
I was
radar.
thinking.
Okay.
No, I just saw that, but I don't know how will black proceed after bishop takes e6. Like, what's the ideal response? Bishop takes e6, f takes e6, cd4, queen d4, king h1, queen takes a1, and all this seems really risky to me.
Yeah. So
Probably
it's
queen
almost seems
e6.
mandatory to play
My
bishop
God.
takes because you can't play pawn takes, or you're just gonna drop the bishop on
Yeah,
c4.
that's right.
So
That's absolutely correct.
um,
I have to play bishop takes e6, f takes e6.
this step in the game. So queen takes d4 check. Bishop e3. Wow, interesting
Oh my
move.
God. Oh,
Looks like the
actually, it
pawn can
is
take it, but
good
what's going
move.
on here?
At the scene is, yeah, at the moment, if you just pull the bishop back, if you just count the material, white has a piece for two pawns, and what white is trying to achieve is white is just trying to protect the a1 rook and giving the piece back.
Okay.
But white will be having knight takes e6, and he'll be an exchanger. Also, he'll get one pawn back. In short, white will be winning, I believe. After bishop e3, f e3, knight e6, you just get the rook on d8, and white is sure short winning. There is no way black is getting out here. Okay, but
Wow.
bishop e3
So Robert showing
is
his
a really
calculation
cool.
skills,
Yeah,
and
and now knight f7.
yep,
Yeah.
going for the fork on the pieces, and
Okay, but
now
now it is still very complicated. Probably black might go bishop c5, and you cannot take any of the rooks for the moment because e2 check will be a threat, and black will get the exchange back, or more than exchange. I'm not sure. I Okay, it will be definitely more than exchange. Bishop c5 will be played here, I believe, because after bishop c5, you have to move the f1 rook somewhere. I think rook. My God, okay, still very complicated. I think rook e1 should be the ideal move. But if you go rook e1, there is bishop e4, and then you cannot take the pawn on e3 because there is again bishop c5. Okay, I hope you're getting me right. I'm just calculating what
yeah,
happens
yeah.
if black goes bishop c5 then. Bishop c5 threatening e2. White goes rook e1. If rook e1, then again bishop e4, trying to harass that rook on e1. You cannot take the e3 pawn because then bishop c5 will come back. And if you go something like rook d1, e2 comes with tempo, and now there's a lot of trouble going on here. And
Can you just play like rookie two?
let's, yeah, I was just thinking to go e2 only. And now if I just plant my bishop on d2, and even if I'm an exchange down, I think black has more than sufficient compensation.
Some monster pawn.
Yeah, that's a monster pawn. You have just closed the d file, and you can just start rolling your other pawns on the queen side, I believe, very comfortably, because I don't see how white is going to break through in this position.
So yeah, that's an interesting strategy. Kind of get some initiative with the
Also,
bishop to eventually get bishop locked in on d2, and then they can
also I
be
have one more move from black side.
sure.
What black can do is probably directly play bishop b4, threatening e2, e2 and e1. Just leave both your rooks as it is. Because if we see the position right now, it's like black has three pawns, right? Black has three pawns up.
Yeah, white did gamble a
Even
lot
if
of
black
material.
gives one or two pawns, then black will still be winning if black manages to drop one or two pawns and manages to get the exchange back. It would still be winning for black only. So after bishop e4, you cannot take any of the rooks because I'll be playing e2.
Hmm. And we see a bit of the downside of not playing moves like bishop takes f4 earlier. Like if you just go for piece activity at all costs, then you have a lot of material to recollect later, even if you get a really good position.
That's right. Moves like knight g5, it's like, okay, it breaks one of the rules that simply says that you don't need to move your pieces twice in the opening without developing other pieces first. And I think that is what is costing quite all these complications.
Yes. All right, perfect. Well, looks like we got an interesting game. This is a live position, and this is actually live on camera. We see this on the far board. So Miles on the left and Robert on the right. And so we've got a good view today. We got board, they're on board one, and actually board two is close to the camera. That's we got Dane against Nathan, or Nathan against Dane
All right.
actually, and these are basically two club titans. So Nathan is the tournament director. He's national master, and
Oh,
he
that's right.
he plays
That's
every
right.
single week. So he's in the orange, and Dane is the club president. So Dane is, and they're both have 2100 floors, so they're both pretty strong players. Probably played each other, I don't know how many times, but a lot because they're both huge club regulars and they're both actually on the board of the castle. So they are big contributing members that keep this running. And Nathan is actually, a big supporter of this broadcast because he helps get all the DGT feed going. That actually gives us the access to the live game. And then Dane actually is also a supporter of the broadcast because he's the one setting up the camera feed. So it's a community run channel, so we have a lot of volunteers helping get this
So
going.
it's great. You have a great team running for this stream and the tournament and the players being regular. I see it's a great community you have there.
Yeah, and actually today, because of that, we actually try to rotate the commentators. And Connor was running a little bit late, but Connor is planning to commentate with us tonight. So we're actually going to take just a 5 minute break here, and we're going to stop the stream for 5 minutes while I swap myself out for Connor, and then these two are going to take over for the rest of the night. So
All
tune
right.
tune back in. I'm going to stop the stream right now just while we get it reorganized with the new camera feeds and stuff, so you don't see us moving everything around.
All right, perfect. We're back. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah. So we just stopped looking at Robert and Miles's game, and now we're taking a look at Nathan Hoover versus Dane Zega. Uh, like Chris was saying earlier, these two are some of the strongest, highest rated players in the club. And it looks like Nathan has the white pieces against Dane. Nathan going e4. He plays just about everything under the sun, so e4 is not very
Okay.
surprising. And then Dane goes for, it looks like, a French, which is actually a little surprising. Dane usually likes a little bit more confrontational openings. I think he's banking on Nathan doing something confrontational because solid closed positions is very much not what Dane usually plays when I see him. So we go d4, classic French. Nothing too surprising here. All mainline here, castles, knight here. Knight g3.
Okay, knight g3 is the main move actually in this position too. And
Yeah,
the point is that I don't like this position from black. If I just give my personal opinion, just because, okay, you have a bishop sitting on c6, but ultimately you will be wasting moves on b6 and bishop b7 later on in order to get a break through c5. Because if you don't get a break through c5, you're anyways not getting e5 or something in order to open up the position. And if you're not aiming to open up the position, it's like it's really bad for black because white can simply just develop his pieces with rook e1, c3, queen e2, bishop f4, probably try to build up a attack later on with h4 or something. So white has a clear plan. White will be just developing his pieces, rook e1, c3, probably h4, h5 later on.
yep.
And if anyways black has to go something like b6, bishop b7, so why not just do it in the opening itself? That is why it's like, okay, it's an old way to play, but I think it's a bit outdated right now. White has a pretty good score in this.
Yeah, I agree. White just has this very comfortable position with the pawn sitting on d4. It just pulls down everything, but knight on d7 really doesn't have any great potential. And if we ever plan our knight on d5, that's just helping out white. If they go something like a3 and c4, they're just grabbing more space, and they may even start like a queenside attack if black doesn't play it right. So I
Yeah,
tend
that's
to
right.
agree that black is probably not so great, but I think there's still potential. So we see bishop to e7, c4, captures, and then c6. So I guess his plan is not to break in the center, but maybe sit here
Just
and
holding it up solid, probably.
yeah, exactly. Which is interesting, but it doesn't seem very ambitious. But who knows? Maybe they're waiting for white to overextend. That's a pretty common thing that I do when I'm facing, lower rated players. But unfortunately, Nathan is not a lower rated player, so I don't think he's gonna slip up like some of the other opponents.
Yeah, that's right. But what I feel is, let's say in this opening, Black just played bishop d7 once, the second bishop move was bishop c6, and on the third move, he just gave away his bishop. So it's like you played three moves to just exchange that bishop, to just give away the bishop pair. It doesn't make sense, actually.
It
Okay,
seems
to
not
me, it
very
doesn't. Yeah.
principled. I agree with you. But
Yeah.
okay, so we see b3, queen to a5. And it looks like maybe we're going queenside castling potentially. We'll see. So bishop to a3, queen to e2. Okay, and we see short castles, which actually seems principled. And actually, now that I'm looking at this position again, I'm not loving Black's position, but it's feeling a little bit more comfortable, especially if we can swap these bishops.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
the
right.
only
That's right.
the only concern I have is actually if you trade everything, these pawns for white are going to be menacing, but you can't really force anything. So maybe black is just okay.
Okay,
And
right
we
now, I
see
think Black is more than okay because Black gets a very good target on d4 if he just manages to exchange that dark squared bishop. Actually,
yeah,
White messed up a bit in the later part after getting that bishop on light squared bishop. After queen takes f3, can you just pull back 3-4 moves? I
yeah.
just
Let
want
me
to
go
go through that position once again.
get back here.
Because,
Yeah, I
okay,
think
bishop,
bishop to
yeah,
b2 may be inaccurate.
you can just simply play a3, I believe. Or if I'm not missing anything. Okay, there's queen c3, I think.
Yeah, but queen c3, maybe you go rook to d1, and you're just developing, right? So maybe this is more correct.
No, I believe. Okay, after a3, queen c3, or rook on a1 is hanging, right?
Oh, I thought you went bishop to e3. Sorry, instead of
No,
a3.
in this, yeah, I was
Yeah,
just thinking. So once you stop that bishop a3 idea, and if white gets a bishop pair, then white is more than fine. But I don't think white is able to achieve that. So I think b3 in itself is not a really cool idea.
yeah. Maybe you go bishop to e3 here, just to develop and then re-coordinate your pieces.
Yeah, maybe that is fine.
Yeah, this is maybe a more challenging idea. But okay, so instead we see bishop to b2, which might just not be completely accurate because it allows this bishop to a3 play. And then after queen e2, castles, rook to d1. Yeah,
Drop
of
the
course we see the
bishops.
swap.
Yeah,
If we don't swap, we're gonna see bishop to a1 because this bishop is very scary along the long diagonal.
yeah,
If
that's
it's sitting
correct.
on a1, it'll stare at the g7 pawn for the rest of the game, and black is not going to be comfortable. So good idea swapping. Takes rook to rook f to d8. And I think black's plan is just going to try and pile up on this d4 pawn because we see now with c6 and e6, maybe black's plan was just to always hold the d5 square so white can never cleanly get a push. It's very interesting. It
In this
and
position,
it
if
looks
I
like
was black, I would probably just prefer black in this position for now because d4 is a long-term target, and I can probably slowly build up my position. White cannot get an attack. White's knight on g3, I would say it's a bit misplaced. I want my knight on f3, not on g3 right now, because in order to support my d4 pawn, probably get knight e5 somehow, but my knight on g3 is not doing anything, absolutely nothing. Probably I'll just move my d7 knight away, probably knight f8, try to develop my rooks on the d5.
Yeah, in this position, I'm actually not sure who I prefer. I actually might pick white only because I really like the idea of f4, f5, because I don't see a great way to stop it other than g6. But then I start, maybe getting my knight in, or swinging my queen over, or maybe I even sack a pawn going f5 at some point later. Because I feel like I have more potential to attack. But after this move a3, yeah, now I'm starting to actually prefer black, just a touch more because I think this gives black time to consolidate, and we
Yeah,
see
maybe.
knight to f8 to try and start
Okay, the
consolidating.
problem with f4 is okay, f4 is a really cool idea. I would agree with you definitely. But I think when you start a flank attack over one side, the opponent's idea is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That is to just break open the center, I would say. If you just go f4, black might play c5, and now you have to solve some problems in the center.
Well, you go
And I
c5, I go
think,
f5 anyways, right?
yeah,
Because my
that is
queen
what
is
I
still
was
pretty much.
thinking. That is what I was thinking that you might go f5 anyways, but I think black might take the pawn on f5, you take back with what? With the knight, with the bishop, with the
Yeah,
rook.
probably the knight. Probably the knight.
And now after c takes d4,
Rook to f3, something like this, and just maybe my plan is to go
okay,
like
rook
rook to
to
d3 and
f3 is like, it's a bit risky, no? Black might go something like knight e5, attacking the rook on f3, bishop on d3, probably going knight g6 later on.
yeah, maybe. And yeah, this is very speculative, but I think it's very interesting, to say the least. And just yeah, rook to g3, and
Yeah, but
it's
f4,
really
f5
interesting
is a
to
really
hold the
cool
pawn.
idea, I would agree.
I'm feeling okay. But yeah, I kind of like this prospect. But once you go a3, now there's nothing for white to play for. I mean, maybe this f4 idea doesn't work, but at least it gives something to play for. Whereas if you go a3, maybe there's a plan that we're missing here. b4, sure, queen back, and then bishop b1. Okay, so maybe white is trying to create some long-term pressure against the king side, but I feel like this is not doing a whole lot. Um, yeah, and A5 seems very reasonable just to try and create some weaknesses. Um, I'm not really sure what white does here, but I'm also not seeing black's full plan yet. So it's a very tricky game. After C5, we back up. Uh,
D4 is your long-term weakness, I would say, but yeah, B5, this is the right way to play. You have to create
yeah,
some counterplay. It's at most necessary right now.
yeah, I think white needs to make something like transform. And now white seems, pretty decent. I still like black just because this D5 square is really looking juicy to me. But still a complicated game. And now we're up to the live position, and I have a feeling that we're gonna see something like knight to f4, knight to d5, and just some rotation like this to try and make it hard for white to create any progress. But I mean, it's still tricky. I still definitely prefer black in this position just because I don't see how white can do anything. But I I'm not gonna say that it's over, right? There's still a lot to be played.
Okay, this is far from over, right? Because
Yeah.
okay, white will obviously try to play up along the B file. That is what I'm thinking, because that is the only way white is getting something out of this position. White just wants to probably move that b1 bishop away, try to bring up rook b1 or something, try to pressurize the pawn on b7 instead of defending the pawn on d4. Because if he starts defending, there is no going back. There is like absolutely nothing that white can do. So what I was thinking from black side was instead of knight g6, okay, knight g6 is a move that probably you can play at any point of the game right now. I was just thinking to bring that 8 rook into the game once, probably with rook d8, and we are just questioning why that. What are you doing? If you're just bringing rook d1, you have to just stay there lifelong, and then probably I'll go knight g6, and
Yeah, but I feel like both moves, rook to d8 and knight to d6, you can play them at any point, right? Because we're not going to be pushing
yeah,
our pawn.
probably.
I think that this may be Dane's next move because this point seems very powerful. It freezes white and it really asks white, what are you doing with your pieces? Because white is tripping over uh, tripping over their own pieces trying to defend this d4 pawn in a lot of these continuations. And maybe he was afraid of like knight to e2, And then after knight to g6, then you have f4 because now the f4 pawn is being held. So maybe that's the idea of going knight here first, so that you don't have knight e2 f4. In which case that would make some sense, but I think you're right. I don't know if the order matters. This might just be a slightly safer continuation. Um,
Yeah,
Regardless, I
might
think
be.
black would be better because white has 30 minutes left and black has an hour, and the position seems, slightly favorable for black just because they feel like they have more play. Whether the engine agrees or not super important. And actually, now that I say that, maybe f4 right here works. Yeah, f4 right here might cause no,
Okay,
because
what's
they
your
can.
idea?
Yeah, so f4 knight takes, rook takes, queen takes rook, queen c1, and then I was thinking I had knight
Okay, you
f1, but
cannot
f
take the
c1.
rook, right? Because the knight on f6 is just guarding the rook on
Oh yeah,
d7.
yeah. I'm being blind. I'm silly. Yep. But
Yeah, no
regardless,
issue.
even if you didn't have this knight, black would have queen c1, queen takes b1, and still be up material. So, but yeah, no, there's
Yeah,
another
that's
one. I'm hallucinating here. But yeah, regardless, black definitely has a more comfortable position and also has double the time that white has. So I think black is in a good
black
situation.
is black is definitely in a good situation.
Yes.
Agreed.
Right. Let's look at board 3 then. So board 3, we have Eddie versus Albert. Eddie with the white pieces against Albert with the black pieces. And this really just looks like a king hunt right here. And I am I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I just optically like what's happening with white. I'm really looking at rook takes f8 in this position, seeing if I can make that work. Because if rook f8 works, then I'm just better maybe. Rook f8, pawn c3, takes check here, check here.
Okay, what I think in this position is I am just believing that each and every move is winning for white. I don't know how is white messing this up. You can just go queen g7 also. You can go knight e5 check. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
is white going
I
to
think
mess
queen
this up.
d7 is very clean. Yeah. Yeah, how did we end up getting here? That's the big question because this is 21 moves in. This is a short game to get to such a, it looks like, dominating position. So we
That's
see
just a
pawn
wild
c4,
position we got there. Yeah, let's just go from the
e5.
start.
So it's a slow position. Eddie chooses to play an exchange.
Okay, that's
Knight
an exchange cloud there.
yep, bishop to f4, e6. Yeah, just normal moves. Nothing spectacular yet. And then f4. This is, I mean, I've seen this played before, but this is not so common when I'm playing. But it makes sense. So Eddie, just for some context, is I think 200 points lower rated than Eddie. He's a Albert, I believe, is a 1700 right now, and Eddie is almost 2000. But another thing is that Albert has been beating a lot of stronger players. He took down a 2000 last month. Actually, I think he took down a 2000 and a 2100. So Albert is definitely playing better than his posted rating. But I think Eddie knows that even though Albert is playing well, he needs to create something. Otherwise, he's going to lose a lot of rating. So he's just going f4, which makes sense. And this is a line I've seen before too. So it's nothing wild. And then we see castles, knight to f3, knight to g4. Knight g4 is a little strange to me, because it's not really accomplishing a lot. And I believe it gives us a tactic on bishop takes h7. This just looks like a free pawn to me. But maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, bishop h7, probably king h8, and then I think white
Yeah,
has to be slightly for choice.
king
But
h8,
yeah,
that is what I was thinking, but I don't think there is anything. If you just go king h8, probably white may play knight g5. If you go knight e3, there is queen h5.
exactly. And this is what I'm thinking too. And this looks very uncomfortable for black. I think white may already be winning. And yeah, we end up seeing king takes, and of course this goes knight g5 and captures. And now you got to go f6. And yeah, Albert plays f6, which I think is the most principled move, just to diffuse
And it
some.
is still complicated because e5 is a serious threat now.
Yeah, it is. But we see a very interesting idea by Eddie here, and he used 30 minutes before he played pawn h4 here. Um, and I didn't even see this idea, but if it works and he did all of his calculations, then this is probably a fantastic play because this really makes it messy for Albert here. And yeah, Albert plays in 3 minutes pawn to e5, and yeah, queen to h5 is just an obvious move, and it takes Eddie all 30 seconds to play this, and it starts getting very tricky after takes and takes. We see bishop to f5, which makes good sense. But yeah, we take here, and I know that black has the extra piece, but I'm not so sure black is winning. So queen to g6 looks like the obvious play here, but then it runs into some knight d5 maybe, and then
Okay, I
you have a
won't be so
lot of
sure
pawns.
about this position. Okay, we have a lot of pawns, but okay, at least after exchanging the queens, I will get one pawn back after bishop e4, probably, just attacking the knight on d4 and the pawn on g2. And in the end, white will be having three pawns for the piece. I think I'm not sure
What
if
were you
white
doing
is
with
having
red?
sufficient.
Queen g6 then what?
Okay, queen g6, knight d5, queen takes h5, rook takes h5, just bishop e4, attacking the knight and the pawn on g2. That is what I was thinking. And okay, I'm not sure if one side is better or even this position is equal. It's just really hard to evaluate. Okay, after bishop e4, I think white can still go knight c3, and you cannot take the pawn on g2 because of king f2, if I'm calculating it correctly. Yes, and the bishop
Yeah.
on g2 gets trapped. Yeah.
That was exactly what I was thinking too. I was about to say, and I think the G2 pawn is safe because after King F2, I'm defending everything. So I
Yeah,
think that
that's right.
we just give an edge to white, and actually I think quite a clean edge because the bishop and the knight are both completely immobilized. They can't do anything, whereas all of white's pieces are being active and attacking. And yeah, after bishop e4, knight c3, we're even tempoing the bishop, so you're just losing time. So I don't think you can go
Okay,
bishop
I
e4.
have one more idea from black side, probably after queen g6, knight d5, queen h5, rook h5. Let's say white, black simply plays rook a to d8, let's say. As white, what will you consider here?
So
My
you're
idea is
going
simple that if you just go,
I take you at AD, and then after probably yeah, this is a little more challenging. I probably still go knight c3 after taking the d5 pawn.
and now if I go knight b4,
Knight d4,
not knight d4, knight b4.
king e2.
And now if there are a few checks or something, I'm not sure. Might be, might not be. Okay,
No,
you
no, no.
cannot go king e2. There is bishop g4, right?
If we go king e2, you go bishop g4 check, and my rook is
Yeah,
on
there's
h5.
bishop g4. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
so
is
maybe
bishop
maybe
g4.
this is interesting. So maybe I'm forced to go something like rook to c1, and
And then
you
there's
know,
knight d3.
yeah, then there's knight d3. So maybe not even that.
It's really tough. You cannot just play recklessly in this position. That is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so maybe instead of this knight retreat, maybe I have to.
You have to go something like rook d. Okay, you cannot go rook d1. There is
Oh,
bishop
rook
g4
d1,
again.
bishop
You
d4.
cannot go. Yeah, you cannot play long castles again. Runs into bishop g4. I think black has a lot of activity
Yeah, so maybe
again.
maybe
For
this is a
pawn.
poison pawn. You need to do something like rook to d1 before you capture the pawn. And I don't see any clean way to hold the pawn, so maybe this is correct. But very tricky, very tricky. But yeah, rook d1 right away still runs into this bishop d4 idea.
Yeah,
So
what if you just want to take the pawn on d5? Then I would say the simpler way is to just take the queen on g6 first, and then you just take the knight or pawn on d5, so that you don't run into bishop g4 traps.
yeah, so maybe this is how you play it. Yep.
Yeah, I think that is
It's
the way to
very,
play.
very tricky. But I was saying this because Queen G6 just feels like the obvious move, but instead we saw Knight takes E5, which really is just it's a baffling move to me. Because after it takes, Queen takes. I mean, we're just gonna castle now. Yeah, like we see here, and I think only White can be better because the King is just so weak. And we see Queen E3 check, Rook D2, D4, G6 takes, check here, check here. And after queen takes here, rook takes. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw resignation. And actually, we did just see
And
resignation.
actually, yes,
That just came in.
yes.
Albert ends up resigning in this position just because the big idea here is, of course, it looks like easy move. Bishop takes f7, and you're going to
It
win the
runs
rook
into
back, and
knight
the king
d5,
doesn't
yeah.
want the pawn. But exactly, knight d5 is unfortunately a check, and it's also hitting the queen. So there's really nothing to do to save the queen. And let's say we run away with our king, like king to d6, we run into yeah,
What do
a
we want
d4
to play? I
here.
would say you can just
Yeah,
play
queen
queen
d6
g6.
with d7, and then you're picking up the d4 pawn. But if you go something like I don't know, king t8, unfortunately we run into rook f8 or queen f8, and that's mate. And if we go king to d8, same story. We're just gonna go something like rook to d7, and we're gonna be mating. So yeah,
Yeah,
in this
that's
position,
correct.
Eddie throws in the towel, and Eddie gets a very nice 25 move win. It's a very short game, but a very nice attack. This h4 idea was just really, really, really nice. I didn't even consider the move after this attack, but yeah, h4 really messes things up. I think that the best attempt that could have happened was maybe you take, and then after h takes, you go g6 and try and go king f7, king e8, and run. But that takes
Great.
a lot of calculation and also a lot of guts. Because if
Yeah,
you're
that
wrong,
is
you're wrong.
correct.
If
That
you
is
yeah,
right.
if you're wrong, you're wrong. But I think this was the time you have to calculate. And actually, now that I say that, maybe you don't even go g6. Maybe you just go king f7 right away. After takes pawn takes king f7, I actually think I'm running successfully. So that's probably what I would have gone for. I would have been greedy, but like I said, very very hard to play. Very hard to play.
But there are no easy decisions to make in this position after h4. h4 just complicates.
Yeah, but remember, White did just sink 30 minutes into one move, so I think Black should have taken their time here, because from this position took 3 minutes, which I think is just not a good waste of time. Is not a good use of time, because after Queen to h5, now you no longer have this King to f7 idea, which I think is a critical idea to consider whenever you're under attack like this. Because White did just give up a knight, so if you can get your king out, you're going to be better.
Yeah, that's right. That's
All right.
correct.
Let's go to the next game. This is UV versus Norm. So UV is our one of our stronger players. I believe he's at 2000 or at least high 1900s, and Norm is sort of our house player. So I believe he's at 1700, but he's been getting some really nice games. Just I believe last week, 2 weeks ago, he got a very nice draw against Eddie, and Norm was actually beating Eddie. He just couldn't quite find the continuation. And Eddie is notoriously one of our strongest players. We see him winning this tournament occasionally. So Norm is playing some really good chess. So this game, UV is playing white, Norm is black. Starts with d4. This is the only thing UV really plays. He always goes d4. Yep, and bishop f4, e3. Just looks like a normal London system, and Norm is playing it fine. Um, we see takes. I don't usually like to take as black. I usually like keeping the pawn tension. And instead of taking in this position, I usually go something like pawn to b6 and then develop my Lexberg bishop or something like that. But takes is definitely a line. It's just not so popular because it gives white some attacking chances on the king side that I don't like giving white.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
so
I agree with you. Yeah,
yep,
that's
we
right.
see bishop d7, h3. I'm not actually sure what h3 does in this position. But UV is very booked up, so maybe he's trying to avoid some knight h5 tricks, and h3 just prophylaxis against that. And then we see a6. Okay, so I think the idea is to go pawn to b5 and maybe do some minority attack. Yeah, a4 to stop this idea. Bishop to d7. Bishop d3. And I think white is still in prep because white has used 2 minutes. And we're 10 moves in. And so this is very reasonably opening prep. And one thing to note is Norm is down about 25 minutes here, playing the black pieces. So I'm already liking white. I just positionally and structurally think that white is doing slightly better. But also seeing the time usage, I think that UV just knows the lines here and he knows the ideas. So I'm definitely thinking that white is going to get some edge. We see rook to c8, castles, castles, and then okay, knight to e5. And I think this is the first move that that is maybe out of book because from here to here, it took about 5 minutes to come up with this move. So maybe we're out of book now. But I do like this idea of going knight to e5 in this position. Just make it impossible for for black to do anything, and maybe even like if you exchange, you can maybe take with the bishop and then go f4 f5 and try and attack. Maybe not right away, but just creating some chaos.
Okay, what I was thinking is that before 95, it was like all these moves come in really handy. It's really easy to play as white. You just take the pawn on d4 with the e pawn. You just develop bishop d3. You just play h3. You just castle. And I think this was the point where we need to think that how are we going to proceed. Okay, if I was white, I would probably play one more handy move that is rook e1. But as you
Yeah.
said, that white may, yeah. But white may be thinking of playing, let's say, if black was 95, you go bishop e5, later on f4, f5. And if you are planning to play f4, f5, then you want your rook on f1, not on e1. Probably that is what white was thinking here for past 5 minutes and then decided to go on 95.
Yeah, but then I think you actually have a point. Instead of going rook e1, maybe you go something like queen to e2. Just because that helps you, connect your rook and maybe you swing your other rook over. But yeah, knight e5 is I think an okay move. It is maybe a little rushed because you always have this move, but it's not like you're going too fast. So
Yeah,
I
I would agree
I
with you.
think
Yeah.
and so we see bishop to e8. We don't want to lose our bishop. This makes some sense. Maybe not the move I would have selected, but definitely a sensible move. Bishop to h2, and then we see knight retreating. And this is a very confusing move to me. I'm not quite sure I understand the idea here.
Okay. I'm at the same situation as you. I'm just wondering, well, like, why would you want to go back to b8?
Maybe the idea is to
That's
go knight b7, knight b6, and try and go for the c4 square. But knight is the knight on e5 and d2 is both of them are defending. So I'm not quite sure I'm following this play. And this play took 3 minutes, so there is probably some plan behind it. I'm just not quite grasping it. But it could have
okay.
also just been a panic play, like the Norm didn't know what to do, and this is just a move that's not losing. And maybe he's doing what the computers do. They just sit on the position and say, I can't make progress, but you also can't beat me. This could be the concept, but
But
it does
okay,
seem a little
this is a
strange.
bit different. This is not how just solidifying the position does, because this is just a weird move. You're just wasting a move. That is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, like if White wants to really create chaos, f4, right, or maybe even g4, just something because all of Black's pieces are completely out of play. So I mean, just optically speaking, I think White has to be better. But okay,
I
we
would
see queen
agree
c2
with you.
on the floor.
I
On the
would
floor,
consider moves like g4 really seriously.
c4.
No, not c4. I'm saying I would consider moves like g4 really
Oh
seriously,
yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah.
When you put c4, I was like, you want to open up the queen side, but okay, yeah,
Oh,
okay, yeah.
okay, never.
c4
Okay, I would never do that. All right.
Yeah, no. I was like, this is a strange idea, and I wanted you to elaborate on it, but yeah, no. Okay, C4 seems crazy to me because it just gives this outpost, and
Oh,
for some of the viewers who might not be as like positionally inclined or haven't studied positions like this, C4 is almost like telling Black I want you to win because what it does is it solves all of Black's problems. Right now, the big problem is that Black's pieces are cramped and they need space. Once you go c4, you're giving Black the opportunity to grab a little bit of space by going pawn takes, and then it gives him the d5 square for his knight, which can't be removed because you've just traded the only pawn, the c pawn, that can attack this d5 square, and it also gives Black time to go something like f6 and e5 and bring his bishops out. So it's solving all of Black's problem in one move. So c4 really shouldn't be on UV's radar, and it wasn't. We see queen to e2, and then we see knight here, and okay, so maybe this was the idea. And after f4, we see h6. I'm not really sure I'm loving this maneuver with knight to b8, knight to d7. But maybe the idea is just Norm wanted the semi-open file. Um, I don't quite think it was justified giving up two tempo in a position like this, but it is definitely an idea. It's just maybe not one I would have gone for. But then we see knight to f3, knight to f3.
What I
going
like
forward,
about this position is that white is not rushing with anything. White is not rushing with g4. White is not rushing with f5. And white is just probably improving his pieces. Because, okay, if I was white, probably I would consider a move like f5 really seriously. But I feel this is also really good. White has a lot of tempting options here.
yeah,
And
and
white is
F5,
just holding up the
you
position.
have to calculate it every single move. That's definitely something you need to look at. But I think UV is determined, just like what you said. I can play F5 next move.
Yeah, that's
There's
right.
nothing stopping him, right? So, um, he's being very mature about this position and taking his time. We see knight to h7, queen to c2, pawn to f5, and I like this f5 idea, but I think it gives g4, and yeah, UV actually plays g4, and now it gets really scary because even though we're ripping things open, I think only white can be better, and we see g6.
Definitely white is
And
better. It's like, it's really difficult to defend this position as black. That is what I would say. Yes, king
I
h1 and
agree.
now, yeah.
Yeah, rook g1, king to h8, takes, and yeah, knight to g6. Bishop takes, rook takes. And I'm really not liking black's position here. I don't see how you defend the h6 one. You
Okay, you are
h5,
not
sure.
liking this position because it is not likable at all. That is what I would say, because
Well,
this
okay.
is like,
No, I don't like it because it's not a position to like. No,
yeah,
this is very
definitely.
there's just the problem is white has all of the play here. They're gonna go rook a to g1 and start some attack. The only thing that black maybe has going for them is that the h2 bishop isn't doing anything. But
Okay, it doesn't
I don't
matter
know.
that. I would just say that it doesn't really
I
matter because you cannot move the knight on f6. You cannot move the knight on h7. The king on h8 is stuck. You are just doubling up the rooks, as you said. And knight on e5 is jumping in. Oh my god, there is a lot of things
maybe you
happening.
do something like knight to g8 in this position. I mean, it seems desperate, but I don't know how else to hold.
Okay. Okay, knight to g8. I will still develop the rooks along the g file. How is black going to proceed? I'm not able
Yeah,
to see anything.
actually, there's a funny line. So knight to g8, rook to g1, and let's say I go, I don't know, something like queen d6, just for argument's sake. Then you can go knight to e5, and
Huh?
then let's say you play a nothing move like d5. This,
You
this,
want
this
to
is a
smother me, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Then I sack. I go. I take your rook. You take, and then I go knight f7 checkmate. So yeah, it's very hard. So maybe knight g8, and I was throwing out random moves, but I actually don't see how you really stop that idea. Maybe you go knight g8, bishop d6, but then this maybe solves the problem of getting the dark squared bishop in at the very least. So I'm thinking white, if they play it right, is going to win. And white also has 40 minutes. Black only has 18 minutes. So this is looking very promising for white.
Yeah, and if
Um,
we just look at the trend of this game, the trend of the moves, it's like black does not know how to continue in this position from the very start and has been making some terrible decisions. So and also, as you mentioned, black is really low on time. It's like,
actually, okay.
it's
Here's
miserable.
an interesting thing. Maybe you just go rook g8 here, because if you
I
go
think rook
takes on
g8 is the
h6,
only move here.
yeah, rook g8, and if you take on h6 after queen f8, you may actually be worse after I do some like knight to e4.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. After rook g8, white still has to hold the position. What I was thinking is probably just simple knight e5, threatening knight f7, and there are still some serious threats. And
Yeah, but
probably later on
after
rook g1.
yeah, queen e8 maybe. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
white definitely is better, but maybe it's not just over. I was actually thinking maybe this is over, but yeah, rook g8 maybe just holds it all
Okay. See,
together.
what I was thinking is that if you go rook g8, I'll go knight e5. If you go queen e8, I just develop my rooks. You cannot take on g6,
Yeah, of course.
and you cannot move the knight on f6. You cannot move the knight on h7. You cannot move anything at all. That is what I was thinking, and I think
Why can't I
okay,
move
it's
my
still
knight on h7?
okay. Where will you move your knight? I'll just take the pawn on h6 with a check, right?
Yeah, that's true. So maybe I go like bishop f8, bishop g7, and
Okay,
then
then probably I'll be having rook takes g8, knight takes g8, knight g6 check, 1-0. because you have to bring your king out and then my rook on g1. There will be many discovered checks, I would say.
Yeah. At the very worst, you're winning an exchange. So
It's like, okay, it's really hard to play as black. Okay, rook g8 comes naturally, but after rook g8, knight e5, queen e8, rook g1 again. Now what to do? We
yeah,
have achieved this
and
position as black, and now there
yeah,
is no
and
way
now
that
this is
black can improve.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe now you trade rooks, but this is so sad.
But
You
okay,
kind of
if you
want
just
to.
trade rooks, then I'll take back with the knight. That was the whole point. And now
That would
that's
be
a check. You have to bring your king out, and then I take on e7 again with a check, and you just lose everything.
and then you take on c8. Yeah, this is very bad. So yeah, maybe this is just terrible.
This is
But
absolutely terrible, but okay.
yeah, all right. Let's look at the next game. This is Brian versus Torfi. Uh, let's go back. I believe Torfi is, if I'm not mistaken, 1800, but he might be 1900. I'm forgetting. And Ryan, I believe, is an 1800. So I believe Torfi is the favorite. Torfi is playing the black pieces, but I'm not 100% sure about that one. But okay, we see e4. Ryan plays almost exclusively e4 from what I've seen. I've faced him 3 times, and every single match has been e4. So okay, we see knight to f6. This is a very bold opening. E5, knight d5. We see d4, d6. Yep, just main line. This is nothing surprising yet. Both of them looking like they're in theory. This move I actually haven't seen. Going back, I
Yeah, I'm not
don't
at all
know.
sure about the
Like,
theory here. I'll be honest with
I
you
don't know knight to
guys.
c3 in this position, but this might be theory. I haven't reviewed this position in a while. But okay, so knight to c3. I'm actually not familiar with this one, but okay, it seems to make sense to me. So and seeing how quickly black is playing, this is probably some prep for black. White is down 15 minutes, black is down 20 seconds. So I think black is just prepared for this. So Torfi, it looks like, has done some prep on this line, and even though Ryan chose this opening, maybe he's not so prepared. So okay, we see h3, back up, castles, knight back, and yeah, I'm really liking what black has done here. It seems like white has opened all of his diagonals, but black is the one who gets their bishops there first. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking
correct.
we have more potential. Yeah, and bishop e2, and we see a5. This is a little surprising to me. I was certain we were going to see bishop to f6 there.
Okay, a5 is just a preparatory move. You want your knight on c5 and you just don't want it to get kicked later on. So I think it's fine. But okay, I would want to go bishop f6 or knight c5 first myself. And then
Yeah,
I'll go a5.
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was about to say if knight to c5 is the plan, just do it now. There's no reason to not do it now because it hits
Yeah,
the
that's
queen.
correct.
Um, and anywhere the queen moves, let's say we do something like, I don't know, queen d4 runs into bishop to f6, or maybe we go like queen to c2. And if you wanted, you could even go like bishop g6, or actually this is probably bad. If you go queen c2, we even take the knight on f3. So it might even force something like queen e3, but then we go rook e8, and it seems very not good
Yeah,
for the.
yeah, that's right.
But okay, so we see this, and then okay, so maybe this was not the plan. Maybe we're trying to attack. I don't actually like what black did here. Um, but I'm not gonna say it's wrong. Rook to f7 is almost forced that or knight f6, but rook to f7
Okay,
just seems a little bit
this
more.
f5 idea is definitely 2PS. It's very much 2PS. No one wants to do that. It's really unnecessary. That is what I would say. But okay, I would not say that the position is still bad for white. It would be if white managed to get his knight on e6 somewhere, but it is not possible. Okay, rook
Yeah,
f7 is played. I think rook f7 is the best move here. Rook f7 is a
yeah,
good move here.
yeah.
And okay, and
And
okay,
I
I
would have
think
chosen g3 just for the tempo, but
you would play what? Okay,
I
you
would
would
have
play
gone
knight
knight
g3.
yeah, just for the tempo. But okay,
Okay, but
this
it's like I think 92 is also fine. If you just
yeah,
go knight
I think
e3, then I think there is bishop f6, bishop b2, and then bishop f3 damaging your structure. I think that's the problem.
that might be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes. Yeah, yeah. No, you're probably right. So yeah, of course they're looking faster. They're calculating all of the lines. I am not. So, I think you're correct though. I think that's what they were looking at, and that's something I would be afraid of too if I had actually done the calculation. But okay, we see knight here, knight to d4, and yeah, I think we're maybe eyeing the e6 square. Maybe not right away because our knight on c5 is doing a nice job defending it, but
But
just
okay, you will eventually play rook e1. You will go knight e6 later on. At some point of the game, I just don't like black right now. At least
yeah,
not much.
we see d7.
Because this was really unnecessary. No one wants to go f5. It just weakens whole position.
Yeah, bishop f6. I'm on the same page as you. I'm not liking what we did here. But okay, Black is trying to justify their play here, and who knows, maybe it'll work out. I still like white, just because this pawn storm doesn't seem justified to me. I don't see how it will actually end up working, but you never know. Okay, so we see it takes here, takes.
Okay, now what is all this? Okay, yeah. But this is
I
something interesting.
I'm
But what
confused.
actually happens after bishop f6? I'm not getting it.
No, bishop f6, go rook f6 though, right? No, rook f6 here. Yeah, maybe bishop f6. Yeah, bishop f6, and we're probably gonna say yeah, knight h6. No surprise. Here, I would have told you that king to g7 was the only move.
Okay, king g7, that was the move that I was thinking, but then I saw that black might be afraid of moves like queen g3.
G3.
After king g7, queen g3, that is what I was looking at. Okay, at first I also saw king g7, but then I just started looking at queen g3. Like,
Queen g3,
what do
bishop
you do?
g6, bishop g6.
And then now, okay, I don't think the black is more than fine. Yes, do not want to go king f8. King g7 looks more than fine.
Yeah, I'm very confused. But instead, after a 2 minute think, we see king f8, and we see we see queen
Okay,
here.
I would say still bishop g6. I don't think there is any problem.
Yeah, I don't see it's bishop g6. And
Yeah, but
takes.
obviously you just want your king on g7 and not on f8.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm thinking too. In this position, if the king was on g7, now there's no tricks. Um,
Yeah, that's correct.
but okay, I mean, black is still clearly better. It's just maybe now you go king g7. It's just you
Then
wasted a
probably
move.
queen d4. I don't know what's going on. King g7. Okay, is queen d4 a good idea? I think it's interesting.
It's definitely tricky.
Yeah, that's right. Because if I manage to get an exchange more out of this, then white has enough compensation. Because white already has how many extra pawns? Two extra pawns? Yeah, two extra pawns.
Yeah. So maybe you go queen g7 instead. Um,
Okay, if you go queen g7, the position is still, I would say, sort of cramped. Because
you're
your
gonna
king
play
on
M1.
f8 is
You're gonna
stuck.
go rook e8. The
Come
idea is
again?
you want to go queen g7, then you go queen g7. It's on the board. That's live. But the idea is you just want to go rook to e8 and trade stuff.
Yeah, rook
Now you
e3.
go
Yes, this was the move that I was also considering.
okay, rook to e8.
Rook e8, probably I have to double up my rooks. I don't have any more ideas. Or wait, let me just calculate a bit. I, okay, yes, I don't see any good ideas from white side. I have to anyways develop my rooks. I have to get some counterplay. Okay, rook e8, rook e1. If you take on e3, I take back with the rook. What do you do next? Okay, if you ask me that as white, what I'm going to do next, I would say I would play knight g4 next. If you move your rook, I'll be having queen d8 checks. That is what my idea would be.
Yeah, so I might just go. Maybe bishop to b1. Just hit the base of your pawn chain and try and create a pass pawn.
You mean after rook e8, rook e1, rook e3, rook e3, after that you want to go bishop b1?
Something like that. I'm trying to. The move order doesn't work quite here because you have knight to g4.
Yes, that's right, because I have knight g4 there.
So maybe after rook to e3, maybe you don't go rook to e1. Maybe you just go like bishop e4 or something in this position, and just try and create a blockade.
Bishop e4 seems interesting. Here just hitting the knight on h6. If I go knight g4, okay, what? It's the only move, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. Now maybe you go like rook to f4, something like this. I don't know if it works right here. It's you have to be
Yeah,
very.
it's really messy. It's really messy, I would say.
I do think black is actually going to win this, and that is because black has 50 minutes, white has 55 seconds. So, just because of the time, I think this is too hard to play as white. Even though white might be objectively better, this is not a position where you want to be down, you know, a full piece, even if you have extra pawns and having to calculate everything. So I do think that black Torfi is gonna come out on top, but you never know. It's always possible we see white play some really spectacular chess and they get to win.
Yeah, that's right. Because, okay, what I would consider about this situation is that, okay, white is low on time, but white has easy moves to play. I think the one that has to do more calculation is black, not white right now. Because, as I told you, white's ideas are quite simple. White is simply doubling his rooks up and then going for knight g4 ideas. White does not have anything more to play right now. Okay, if white does
Maybe
panic, then the scene is different.
can we go bishop f5 maybe to kill all of white's ideas?
Ah, yeah, that looks like good move to me.
Yeah. Bishop
Bishop
f5
f5,
and
the knight
maybe
does not have anywhere to go, and you are
yeah, you
hitting
have
the
to take.
knight.
And after rook takes, you double up, but then you go rook f7, and where's the play?
Yeah, I think we have got it there.
Yeah.
Okay, the play would be along the g file then, I would say. Something like rook g3, I'm not sure. Rook g3, queen f6. Again, it's really tough to prove anything. Then queen g4. Okay, f2 is hanging, but I think you leave it hanging. Or no?
I don't think so.
My
Because
god. Oh my
after
god.
I take, I don't think you have anything concrete after I go rook g6.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. White is not. Okay, bishop f5 is a good idea. I would say if black spots it, I don't think there would be much problem then.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still a game
Yeah.
because until the knight on c5 does not come into play, and if white manages to get in some tricks, it's like it's not so clear until then. But yeah,
Yeah.
black is
I
definitely better after that.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Do we have any more games? We do. We have. It looks like Michael Bassel versus Ezekiel Smigel. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. But I believe this is
Don't
the
ask me that about about that. Even I'm
last.
bad at
I
pronouncing.
believe this is the last board in the premiere section. I believe it's the premiere section. So we
Huh?
see d4, d5. So a very normal opening. We saw an exchange slot earlier. This is just non-exchange. Queen c2, castles, and now we see takes. I never like taking as white in this position. I feel like it's always more challenging when you ask black where they're going to put their light squared bishop. So I like moves like bishop e2 here, and then you castle. What are your thoughts on this type of opening?
Okay, cd5 is also a very typical idea.
It's very playable, but especially at the lower levels, like below 2100 or 2000, I never found it challenging to play after the exchange. Whereas maybe white doesn't sorry black doesn't know where to put their light squared bishop, and then you can get some small edge based on that. But okay, I mean, of course, exchange is a very common idea, and we see
Okay,
this a lot.
so cd5 actually is it? It's not just a common idea. It's a very typical idea. What happens is I'll give you two variations. Let's say in this position after cd5, ed5, white just simply develops his bishop on d3, puts his pawn on h3. It's just controlling all of white, black c8 bishop. That's the first point. The second point is later on, white will just castle short and then start pushing his pawns on the queen side. That is a3, b4, trying to get b5, and that is white's normal plan. Whereas black does not have any plan. Black has to stay still. Black has to hold. And I'm being literal about it. It's just practical. Black does not have anything to do. Black has to hold the position. So it's like it's a long-term advantage. I would not say advantage exactly, but it's like white has a clear idea. White will be pushing b4, b5, trying to break your pawn chain. Black does not have anything to do. And black's only idea is to hold the position. So it would be white that would be on the driver's seat. Secondly, what happens is if you just don't go for this idea, if you just play moves like bishop e2 or bishop d3, what happens is black will play d takes c4. You take back with the bishop. Black will start pushing his pawns with b5. Get in his bishop with bishop b7, rook c8, a6, c5. That is black's idea. And um, mostly black will get that position, and the bishop on b7 would be a monster then. Also, the center will get open. It's like
Yeah,
these are the
this
ideas
is
that black has.
yeah, and this is what you play when you face like a strong master, but at the slightly lower rating range, I don't see them knowing this plane, and that's why I always like when I'm facing someone who's maybe not so familiar. Uh, I don't usually play something like this, but yeah, of course, this is good to know just for anyone viewing who hasn't seen this plan. You do want to take here, but you don't have to take, especially if you don't think your opponent's like studied this line.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
actually, looking at the time usage, maybe Black has studied because they've used 2 minutes to get to this position. But I never usually like taking unless you're above like a 2000. Okay, bishop d3, h6, bishop h4, a5 makes some sense. Just grabbing space, castles, rook e8, rook to b1. Okay, sure. I'm not actually entirely sure what rook b1 is doing here.
Okay, as
Maybe
I
when
told you, the idea is to go a3,
taking,
b4.
yeah, maybe this, but I don't know how scary this is because we
Okay,
have
it's
some
not at
time.
all scary right now because black may go b5 if he knows the correct ideas. Yeah,
Yeah, and
this
that's
is the way to
exactly
play.
what I was thinking. So we go b5 and then we see a4, but then we go b4. Yeah, and now I think that this is more comfortable for black. Just
What I would say is that black has studied this complete variation. Black is playing absolutely accurately. That is what my remarks on this question would be because this is the only way that black can play, and this is actually okay. If I remember correctly, if the when I last checked this position, this should be 0.00 right now.
yeah, but I think black has an easier game to play here. Even though you have this backwards c pawn, um, this is not
It's not
really
much
such a
of
big
an
deal.
issue. It's not much of an
Exactly,
issue.
because you can defend it. You can even go like bishop to b7. You can go queen to b6, queen to c7. Just you can even go, I believe, knight to b8, which looks ridiculous, but I think just white can't break because your pawns are so solid. So
Okay, so the
um,
typical idea in this position is to just exchange that c8 bishop. You just exchange the worst piece. You just go bishop a6, and black has solved all his problems. I don't see
yep,
how is this game going anyway, any other way around.
yep, and
And
we see
yes,
exactly that.
yeah.
And we exchange, and then we see g5. And so maybe black is even maybe getting ambitious and trying to create some winning chances. Back up.
Before g5, this position, I would say this was totally equal. Now I'm definitely sure this is slightly better for white.
For white, yeah, I think I
Definitely.
kind of agree, but I'm not actually entirely sure. I'm trying to determine if g5 is actually some long-term weakness or like a brilliant plan to block out all of white's pieces.
No,
Um,
actually, what g5 does is g5 is not the weakness. The weakness is the f5 square. You can just, I believe, you can just take the pawn on c5. If black takes back with the knight, you just go queen d1. My idea is simple. I want to go knight d4, knight f5, or knight d4, knight b5.
yeah, this is I think a very strong plan. We do see takes, and then queen
Okay,
f5.
I don't want my queen on f5. Okay, I considered this move, but my idea was simple. That is why I wanted to go queen d1. If white allows me, then I'll put my pawn on b3. I'll put one of my knights on d4. And black cannot just stop me from playing knight b5 or knight f5, both the moves. I will get my knights on one of the squares.
Yeah, we see here here. So
Yeah.
so maybe this is a little inaccurate though, because black is picking up the pawn, but
Yeah, that is
white doesn't
why
really
queen
have,
d1 was necessary. That is what I was thinking.
there's definitely a little bit of compensation though. So maybe this is not the worst. Yeah, and white is picking back up this one. I still do really like what's being done here with the black pieces, just because White's rook is really out of play right now, and I actually don't see how you get him back in other than h4. Which, okay, of course, you see in the board, knight
And what
c5.
I was thinking is if you can just take two moves back, let's say when f6 was played, could you just put up that position? Yeah, just in this position, what I was wondering is that, okay, other than the c6 square right now, even I was just wondering if f6 was really necessary. Can you just start pushing a4 or something? Because, okay, yeah, after f6, you just shut down the rook, but is a4 giving you sufficient advantage instantly?
h4 knight c1, maybe that's what they were scared of. I think it's still
No, but
better.
then a3, right? Then it's a3 there.
Knight a2,
Okay. No, a4, knight c1, then there is rook c8. 0-1 already.
0-1, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because rook is not coming back, yet the knight is being hit. You just move the knight. I just take the pawn on b3. I just push b2. I think I'm winning.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, maybe just a4 would have been winning, and it's
Okay, but
definitely something to
a4,
think about.
I think white will just take b takes a4. If I push b3,
Knight c3
I
maybe.
would be. Yeah, I would have knight c3. Yes, that is what I was wondering.
Well, so actually after knight
But
c4,
then,
you still have
but
rook
then
c8.
again rook c8. Yeah, but then again rook c8.
Yeah, and so maybe this was just winning. But okay, instead we see f6 and h4, and then after the knights hop in, takes. Okay,
Okay,
maybe
okay.
this is like the similar plan, because I don't see how we're stopping this. And in this position,
For now,
you know,
white has stopped both the pawns.
I'm not so. I mean, yeah, yes, like literally yes, but I'm not so sure they're stopped yet.
Because why? If you push a2, I am taking the pawn on b2. b1 is not at all possible right now. If you give me one move, okay, as white also, I'm not sure what to do next. Rook
Yeah,
h8 is not a
that's the
threat.
big issue. Because what happens if I go rook c8, rook c2? Like, how are you stopping them?
Okay, let's just try to think of it. Okay, rook c8 is your plan. Rook c8 is really good, I would say. Can white
Maybe you go
really
king
hard?
h2, but then this is the draw.
Come again?
Maybe you just go king h2, not actually look at this, because now rook c2, knight b1, but then you no, okay, knight b1 you
Oh,
go
there is
h2.
a2, right? There is a2. Yeah.
Yeah, then that goes h2, and I'm taking on b1, because I was thinking, oh, bishop b2, but then you take, and yeah, so maybe rook c8 here is just scary.
Yeah, as white, I'm not able to see any counterplay around the king or the f6 pawn.
Maybe you just have to sack your bishop, and then
Okay,
if you sack your bishop, maybe this is after king to h2, maybe this is a draw, because knight b1, and then you just go knight a3, knight b1, knight a3, knight b1, and
no, you'll not get
the
knight a3,
not
knight
a
b1, I think.
non
Because
pawn
let's say rook c8, you're considering bishop b2, is that right? Bishop b2, a b2, king h2, rook c2, knight b1. I'll go rook c1. If you go knight a3, I'll go rook a1, right?
Then I'll go pawn to a7, check.
And then you want to go rook b6, is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, but
that's my
it's
plan.
still losing, right? Because you can just take the pawn on
Well,
f7, you
actually,
go rook b6.
instead of going knight b no knight b1 is correct. How's it losing? Sorry.
The point is that, okay, when you go f7, I'll just take the pawn on f7. You play rook b6, I'll just take the knight on a3. You just take the pawn on b2, I'll just take the pawn on e3. And now I'm having that d5 extra pawn, and that would be sufficient for me to win, I would say. Because it's like, it's not so complicated after that. You have a good passed pawn.
Yeah, maybe you're right. So maybe instead I went king f2 instead of king h2.
Okay, but then rook c2 would just pin the knight.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, this is bad. So yeah,
Okay,
I don't
it's
know.
still bad news. Okay, but knight d6 is played. Okay, what is this? Uh, all right.
I'm not understanding this play. What is the idea?
The idea is to go knight c4 right now, and if you cannot just take because due to a2, this is black's idea right now.
Sure, sure.
But oh my god, it's like everything is winning for black. I don't see any tactics, even
Well, okay,
though
so bishop b2 now maybe.
bishop b2, a b2, and then
F7 check.
f7. Yes, I think that's good to go. Bishop b2, a b2, f7. It's
Now
knight f7,
white is maybe even winning.
b6. Yeah, might be, might be. I think bishop b2 is a good. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't see how you stop this.
bishop b2 is really straightforward. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, and the big thing is bishop b2, pawn b2, f7. Let's say you take with the king. The problem is I go rook takes d6, and now I'm still up a piece. And if you go knight takes, trying to stop it, after rook to b6, we're getting behind the pawn, and there's no real way to defend it other than maybe a rook to a2. But rook to a2, maybe rook to a2 gives you some hope. Because after
Okay,
king
I
f7,
don't think there is any hope because you just go king f2,
no,
king e2, king
no. You don't
d3.
even go king f2. You go knight b1.
Ah, you go knight b1. Yeah, knight b1. Knight b1 looks pretty straightforward. Okay, king f2 was blunder only. I think king f2 runs into b1 queen. Yeah.
Yeah, b1 queen. It's probably still a draw, but you can't.
Okay. Anyways, we don't want to play king f2. That's the whole point.
Yeah, knight to b1. And okay, you'll run your knight back. You'll probably come, knight d6. But now I go king f2, and after knight to c4, now I go rook b3 or something. And as long as my king is active and in the center, I'm okay giving up my knight because I know I can't lose at the very least. And I'm even trying to push for a win. It's still complicated, mind you. It's just I think it's maybe the least complicated one. I don't
Uh,
know how else to say it.
okay. Yeah, probably. Probably we can put it up that way.
Yes.
But it's a cool game going on.
Yes. Very, very tactical. Got to be very, very careful. But okay. Do we have any games? It looks like Daniel versus Steven. I believe this is the open section now. Let's see what's been going on in the open section. So we see pawn c4.
We see
Okay,
a Caro
a classic Carapan, and it looks like we're trading, takes. And I actually like playing this type of structure for black. I know it's slight edge for white because I've seen the eval, but I've never had trouble because it's just very free flowing. Yeah, bishop
It's just
here.
very solid for black. I would agree with you.
Yeah, and I think the engine gives like 0.2 or 0.3, but it's just we're not engines, right? We can't prove this.
I agree
Um,
with you. I agree with you completely.
yeah, and this is what you play every single time. You trade, you bring your rook in. Yeah, okay,
Okay, this
bring your rook in.
is not some good play from both the sides, I would say. Because as white, I would not want to play d5 so soon. And
But okay, white
if
has
I'm black, I would not want to give that bishop for the knight. Okay, what's going on
okay,
after?
rook c8 is a strange move to me. I think rook to b8 is supposed to be, or would be a little bit more accurate, just to pick up the b2 pawn and split the pawns. But
I'm not even
I'm
sure
not.
what's going on. Like, okay, past 4 to 5 moves have been so. It has been a drastic change in the position. Position gets open. D5 was played. Bishop F3 was played. I just don't like those two decisions. Okay, I haven't calculated anything, but from my instinct, I can say that it just feels weird.
Yeah, white should be better. Your rook
Okay, wait.
c7.
Isn't
What?
there? Am I missing something? Isn't there knight c5 there
Where? Sorry.
instead of rook c7? Am I blundering something? Oh yes, probably rook e8, rook e8, rook e7. I was considering knight c5 in this position.
Oh,
If
knight
you're
c5, yeah, you take.
you just
And
take
then
on
rook,
e8
rook,
and then you go rook e7.
yeah. Okay, but instead we see rook to c7, which feels suspicious to me. And actually, I'm trying to figure out why this is not just losing on the spot. I'm sorry, is that not a free piece?
Wait, what is happening? Rook takes c7.
No, okay. Yeah,
You have
so
to
this is
take.
a losing pawn game though. This is completely losing. No, rook takes rook.
I think it's already lost for black. Yes, you can just take rook takes rook. There is no issues with that. And
And
wait,
after knight takes, rook takes, knight
are
takes.
are we missing something? Because
Okay.
okay, no.
So the first
What if
move I
rook
looked
takes
at,
e6?
yeah, the first move I looked at was rook to e6.
Then what is
But
happening?
after pawn takes, I mean, we're winning the exchange, but I'm
No, we are winning
not
the piece, right? You can just take queen takes c7 or rook takes c7. We are up a piece.
yeah, okay, maybe rook e6 works.
Rook e6 and it's already 1-0. What can black do? Black cannot play anything. No, there are
Works.
no tricks. There are no tricks.
Yeah, maybe not. But okay,
Rook e6
rook takes rook is also I think good enough, but you're right. Rook e6 I looked at right away, but I thought I saw something, but yeah, there's nothing. And then okay, so we
there's
see
nothing.
trade, and then very strange decision. We see queen to e4.
Okay, I would say it's really practical if you can just if it is posed for black, yeah. Okay, if there was some play, I would not play that. But yes. Okay, I don't know what is white trying to do. As white, yes, you just want your bishop on d5. That is what you need to do. But yeah. Okay.
I'm very
Once
confused by these choices. I mean, after doing all of this, you have to go queen to a8 here, right? That was the entire point. And now we don't go queen to a8.
I think queen to it must be
Yeah,
winning.
yeah, no, queen e8, king f8, bishop
Bishop
c6,
c6.
and then
And
after
then you
queen
just
e7,
swap every pieces.
you swap everything, and this is a winning endgame.
Yeah, definitely. It's
But
clearly winning.
instead, we see this trade, and then not even bishop to c4, which just restricts the knights, which is very strange. Um, but
But it is
just
like there are several ways that white is winning in this position, I would say.
yeah, but you always want to go for the most trivial, the cleanest. So I mean, even though white may still win, I think
With
they're
that
really
has
making it hard. And yeah,
oh my
now
god.
now black may even win this.
Yeah, black may even win this. If we just go according to the trend, it's like white has been messing this up all around.
Yeah, I mean, there there is no excuse not to take this pawn here, and then just try and run your a pawn.
I would agree with you. Yeah, definitely.
But
Definitely.
instead, we see knight hopping in and taking, and now okay, yeah, this I actually think black is gonna win. I don't actually see
Yes,
what to do
after
after knight takes.
94, after
Knight
94,
e4,
I think it's
same
yeah.
idea. No, 94. Maybe there's some trick. So 94, you might be able to go g4.
H takes g4. If you go h5, I have g3. I'm very much faster.
Yeah. Wait, are you? Yeah, you're faster. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
okay, it tactically works. So knight g4 is a more accurate variation of what I was calculating then. So this is I think the move to play. Um, but yeah, I'm
I
not so
think white is
sure.
just lost here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, what a crazy twist. I mean, I would have told you this is so easy to clean up. But I
Yeah,
mean,
we were just considering that there are several ways that white is winning, and now suddenly, yeah,
Black's not win. And that's what I was saying earlier. You usually want to simplify as quickly as you can to something trivial, where like even if you screw up, you can't lose. But
yeah, that's right.
white missed their chance like two or three times in a row, And now after knight to e4, I mean, maybe the engine shows us some crazy line where black can't win and white still holds it, but I would wager that black is going to win this one.
Probably I'll also be rooting for black right now because it has been a crazy turn of events. Even though I would right now say that I still think it's okay. I'm not sure if it is clear or not because even if you
Well,
go
I think
knight
it's a zero.
e4, what?
I might actually think it's zeros just because if you keep the minor pieces on, there's got to be some structure somewhere to hold everything. But maybe not. Maybe not.
The point is that white has not even started pushing his pawns. If white's pawn was on c4 or c5 somewhere, then we would have considered that there
Yeah.
is some counterplay. But I'm not able to see how white is managing anything.
I'm not either. Yeah, I think back here, instead of running your king, you take and then you go a4, a5, a6.
Yes, I would agree with you definitely, and that is the most accurate way. That's the simplest way to go.
But yeah, white is trying to centralize their king, which in principle is good. But in this endgame, you just have to calculate. You shouldn't be relying on principles when it's a concrete endgame.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Because okay, what white is trying to achieve here is, let's say black goes knight e4, you go h takes g5, takes g5, king e5. Probably trying to hold up black's king, probably trying to hold up the pawns, but I don't think that is working. After knight g3, what do you play?
yeah,
Probably bishop d5. That just seems really slow. That is the whole point.
yeah, and at the very least, you can't be winning.
Ah, okay. The point is, what I'm seeing right now is that you just keep your bishop on d5. Your knight on g3 isn't moving. Okay, but what black will do is black will just play f4 and then black will just start pushing the h pawn. Okay, I think
Exactly.
black is just winning. Black is just winning. Nothing is happening.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, very, very tricky. Let's see. Are there any more games? Looks like okay. So Nathan Hoover is actually playing 2 games, and so Nathan is playing this board as well. Nathan has the black pieces. So let's go back. So
Huh?
he's facing Thaddeus, who's a very strong
Uh,
1900. But Nathan is a national master, so Nathan can hold his own in 2 games. So we see exchange here, night outs, and this is a system that Nathan plays. This is objectively, I think it's like almost +2 for white. It's really, really, really bad, but you have to know every single
I
move.
just don't know about. I just don't know anything about this idea. I'll be super honest. I just don't know what's
It,
going on. What is second move if I what is like
you have 3 openings. So there's like the really strong openings. There's the trappy openings, and then there's this
huh?
opening. And the point is just he's trying to get a game where his opponent has not prepped him. And white is completely winning if they play it right, but the trick is play it right, and that's harder said than done. Like already here, I'm not so sure. What
Okay,
happened?
wait. What happened there? Okay, I think there's a transmission error.
Yeah, obviously we took the queen because Nathan is never going to play rook here.
And no
So
one is
there's
going to play rook there. Not even a 6-year-old kid would play that.
this is not the live position. I'm not sure exactly what the live position
Okay,
is.
I think it would be rook takes d8, then probably bishop takes g6 would have been played. Something like that.
Yeah, so there's a rook on d8 here. Nathan Hoover
Yes.
is an national master. He's not going to blunder a rook in one move.
There is a rook. There is definitely a rook on d8, and
Yeah,
then
because
white
of
would be
course,
following up with knight takes e5, then knight takes d4. Probably that is white's whole idea. That is what I'm counting on at least.
yeah. Um, and I think black with a rook on d8 has a very comfortable position. He'll take with actually you can take with either pawn. Each pawn, of course, is more principled, but I think it's okay
Yeah.
taking with the other one. But and white is probably going to win the pawn on d4 at some point, but with the bishop here, I think there's some compensation. But now that I say that, maybe No, I think there's enough compensation. If I had to guess, this one will peter out to a draw. But Nathan is very tricky in endgame, so maybe Nathan will be able to swindle. Or who knows? Thaddeus is also a very strong player. So that could also happen.
Uh, okay, practically, I just think this position is really equal. If we are just considering that there is a rook on d8, and later on black takes the bishop with a h pawn, we just take the bishop on e5, then we take the pawn on d4. Black manages to get a pawn on c4. Uh, we have opposite colored bishops. Probably at one point the knights might get swapped. It's a really equal endgame. That is what I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, shall we go back to board 1 and see what's happening?
Let's see what's the update there. Yeah.
Let's cycle all the way back. Here's board 1. And it looks like black is probably going to be winning this one.
Yes, definitely black is winning. If it is black's move, we are just winning the knight right away. What's this going on?
Yeah, let's go back. So we played this crazy opening. And I think
Yes,
we already looked at it up till
knight
what was
d4,
it?
we saw everything. We saw this also. And now queen d4 was done, bishop e3 was done. And after this was the position after knight f7 that we were calculating. And okay, e2 is played. The move that
Yeah,
I was considering black was bishop b4 and bishop c5. These were the two moves that I was considering. The first move that we analyzed was bishop c5. The next move that we analyzed was bishop b4. But I think e2 is a move that is more straightforward just because of
yeah.
bishop c5 check, rook d1, and black has been simply winning. This is a very simple variation. Yeah.
Where do we go here, son?
Rook d1. Just play rook d1. That is what I was thinking. The idea is if you go knight takes h8, you play rook takes a1, rook takes a1, probably bishop f2, and black is 2 pawns up, even after giving up that e pawn.
Yeah, and this is what we see. And takes.
Yeah,
And yeah, this is definitely sufficient. And Miles
yeah,
is a
even this is good. Even this
very
is good.
strong player. So and he's showing very good technique here, really keeping the pieces at bay. And yeah, he's just so one thing about the knight is it's really bad at stopping edge pawns just because
Yeah,
it doesn't
correct.
have like there's only like one or two ranks where it can potentially stop things and it can't easily stop them. So yeah, we see takes. Okay, so here,
And the knight
so
is struck.
yeah, and the knight is stuck. So in this position, yeah, of course he plays here because he wants to get up, but we're just gonna see takes, and okay, this is unfortunately over.
Okay, what I am thinking is that white might have just put both the kings on the central squares. That is why
Yeah,
king d4 is there.
I think that's why King D4 is played.
Yeah,
Because
otherwise
that
you
is
would play g6 or something else. Or maybe the most reasonable thing is that you would just resign in this position. The knight is not going anywhere. It's already done.
so I think you're right. And actually looking at the camera feed, you are correct. There's nobody sitting at the board. So
Yeah.
I believe you're right. We can look at this game. Let's go back. This is between Nathan and Dane. Um, yep. We remember looking at all of this. And this is where we stopped off. And now Rook C1 came. And then after
Okay.
Knight E7, Queen to B2, we see a rotation to this square, and I think Black just wants to put his other knight on D5. This makes very good sense, and I'm
Okay, this
really
is
still liking Black here.
really good play by black actually.
Yeah, and Black is a very strong player. He won the Chicago Open, and then a few weeks later he went around and won the Vegas Open for the 2100 and under section. So he's at least a 2100. That's actually his floor now. That's his rating floor. And I'm thinking he's gonna hit 2200, pretty soon. He's a very strong player. Okay. We
He's playing
see
quite
E5.
accurately. Okay, e5. Okay, really good actually. I like this move.
Yep. And then E4, very nice. And then knight
Really
back. Yeah.
dominating.
And this just looks crushing, in my opinion. I
Okay,
mean, there's
was
like
f5 an option there instead of knight f6? I think knight
I mean,
f6 is
f5 is
good.
an option, but it gives bishop a2 and maybe some pressure relief.
Yeah, I was thinking bishop a2, but you could just move the king to h7 or king h8. I'm not sure where, but
I
let's
think
just
you will
move
want.
king.
I think you want to do this trade though.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you're right. Knight f6 is just really principle. You just put your knight there, just trying to pressurize the d1, yeah, rook d5. I like this. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good way to play.
we're
But
giving this up.
why would you want to do this?
Okay. There was a trick. There was a trick. So maybe white is actually slightly
White is
better
winning,
now.
actually. White is just
Yeah,
winning.
this is a very nice trick. Um, Black still has really good chances to win though, because white is down to a minute and a half. So
But how can you
they're
mess
really
this
gonna
up?
have to play active.
You can just take the pawn on a5, again put the rook on b5, start pushing the a pawn. I think it's just game over.
Yeah, I'm afraid for Nathan. Nathan is playing two games at once right now. And so if he's not paying attention, he can very easily flag. He's under a minute right now. So
Okay,
he's
that's a
gotta
serious
come
twist of events. Yeah.
yeah, and here comes Nathan moving quickly. And he's gonna sit, and Nathan really likes waiting until the last second to move. So we'll see if he finds a quick move. I think he should just take the pawn. I know it looks intimidating, but Nathan is a strong player. He goes king to f8, which is also a very principled play. This avoids any trips. It brings his king in. Sure. Um, I'm not
Yeah, but
seeing
why
why you
won't
don't take.
not take the pawn? Yeah, exactly. That was my whole point. That why would you not want to take the pawn on a5?
Probably because he just assumes that Dane has tricks, and now we see him take the pawn.
Okay, yeah,
I think Nathan needs to play this faster though. He
I
has a minute
agree.
and a half.
I
It's
agree.
plus 30. It is plus 30. So Nathan will be gaining time, but I think he needs to
Okay, I
do more.
see. I see. I think I see why King f1 was played. Because if
Yeah,
you
because
take the rook a5
after
first,
knight
there
d4
is
you have knight e2, right?
after knight e4 you have knight e2. I think yeah, knight e2 or knight
Yeah, or
f3,
knight
something
e3,
like that.
something like yeah.
Yeah, probably knight f3.
Yeah, and this variation I think is probably the cleanest because now the king gets to e3 or d3 depending on what is
But,
played.
but okay, I was seeing if knight c6, knight d4 is something
Well, knight
that is
c6,
causing troubles. Yeah, that is
knight,
what I was looking at.
knight c6, rook a4.
Knight c6, rook a4. Okay, that's the simplest. Nothing, no worries. Simple. Yeah.
So yeah, I think white is going to go on to win this because now white is up in exchange and a pawn, and because they have that extra exchange, they have the ability to just mop up more pawns. There's not a lot you can do once you're down, especially against such a strong player like Nate. So I actually think that Nate is going to go on to win this. So but we'll see. Dane is a very tricky player, especially when there are knights on the board and you're low on time. There's a lot that can happen. And yeah, we
All right.
see this move in rook to a4 almost immediately, which is I think what you need to do. Um, and yeah, Nate's up to 2 minutes, but it's still not over. Still not over, by no means. So I'm curious what's going to happen. I think the plan for white is to go something like rook to c4, king to e3, and then start pushing your a pawn, something like this. Or maybe you just go like now that I say that, maybe
Okay,
you go
I think you can just
e3,
simply play king
c4.
d3, king c4. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, and what do you do against that? I'm not so sure. Um,
What you do is you just shake hands, you just go home. That is what you do.
that's a well said, yeah.
Because
But no, I mean there's still definitely game to play, especially since white is so low on time. And like I said, white is going back and forth. All right, let's take a look at the other games though. So Eddie's game already finished. For those who didn't see, Eddie won in this position. Albert Yang ended up resigning.
this was a
Next
really
game,
cool
this
game.
one was the
Yeah.
one against Norm, and it looks like Norm lost on time in this position.
Did he lose on time, or we are not seeing any
This is
transmission?
the last move. He went from 40 minutes to 0. He may have
I
just
think
resigned.
there is some don't you think there is some transmission error here? Because why would you want to? Okay, this is losing only, but why would you want to resign in this position?
Well, mind you, Norm is the 1700, right?
Okay,
Or no, he's almost 17. He's 16 something, and he's facing a
okay.
2000. And now he's seeing his king is open, and he can't move his pieces, and he's not seeing any plans. Maybe he just wants to say, "Well played. I'm gonna, grab a coffee and call it a night."
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Who knows?
that is also quite possible. I'm not
Yeah,
sure about all these things new
yeah.
to
Of
this.
course, you could probably play on, but resignation here, maybe premature, is not completely uncalled for.
Yeah.
So, okay. This one, this one was the very complicated one. It's still going, and White is still playing off of increment. Let's just go back and see what happened. So we did not see the move that we were talking about. Yeah, instead we saw rook to e8, rook takes, and then we saw bishop to f7. Bishop f7 is not a move I like. Yeah, because of knight to g4. And after here takes, you know,
White
I think
has enough
White is maybe
compensation, I
better.
would say.
I
Yes,
think White
I
has
would agree with you. I would agree with you.
because yeah, now
Okay, I wouldn't say group
I'm not so
actually there.
sure about this
Yeah, even
position.
I'm not so sure
Sure.
like what's going on.
I have no clue what's going on. But this combination of knight and bishop, it's doing something here. Um, push. We might.
Okay, White is winning right now, I believe.
What I mean, this last move doesn't make sense to me. Why queen here? Okay,
Okay, where do
maybe
you
go.
want to move your queen? It's like wherever you go, I don't see any good ideas. Could you just
Yeah, so
shed some light?
maybe we're stuck. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that's why we stuck. Yeah, so maybe White's is just winning.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, very nice idea. So White was playing well in time, but White didn't find this important bishop to f5 move to stop all of White's tricks, and they ended up giving up the exchange. So I think this one might go to White. Let's move to the next game. This one was Ezekiel versus Mitchell
And
or
we
Norm.
left
Sorry.
this game where?
Yeah, let
I think it happened what you said, right?
probably.
No. Hey, they played
And
f7 directly.
then he goes check. And then here. Okay.
Okay, it's a similar idea.
I don't actually like this additional
Bishop
check. I think
g7, yeah.
helps go a little faster. But okay. Actually, now that I see the plan, what they're doing here, I agree. And yeah, okay. This is trivial. But you go king to e3 here. I'm not sure why it's not already on the board.
I would agree with you. Even I'm wondering, like, what is White thinking about? I
Maybe
don't
they're
see any
afraid.
other options.
Yeah, maybe they're afraid of something like king to b4.
But anyways, they cannot stop king b4, right?
Yeah,
King b4 will be played anyways on the board, even if you go king e3 or if you don't go king e3.
and that's exactly why I said it's instant. But you know, he has 20 minutes. It's a classical match, so he can take his time. Especially in an endgame like this, you want to make sure you're not like miscalculating. So
e3 is
I
really
can
important
understand,
because
but
if you just
no, the problem is this is just so easy. You go king to e3, king b4, and then you just go e5. And then if he goes king to b3, you go rook to c1. And if he goes king to b2, then you go like rook to e1, and you start pushing, and you can even sack your rook because if your pawns get far enough up, 3 pawns versus a rook is going to win. This is
yes,
like
I would agree with you. I would
this
agree
is
with you.
But
And
for
actually,
some
that's your
reason,
only plan. That's your only plan. If you just keep messing around with the king and the rook, you might
maybe even a
not get
draw.
full point. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay. So this is our position. Let's take a look at the next board.
But this is game over.
Yeah, I mean black is winning completely. Just F3.
Just
Nothing to
F3.
do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, whatever you want to do. It's
I
like,
mean, yeah, this is still winning. I think F3 is just cleanest.
yeah, F3
Okay,
was the cleanest. Agree with.
what was the okay? Yeah, this Karakhan, like I said, black can't be worse at any point. This very weird exchange, and
It's
then
just
from
very
from the
much
very
weird that
beginning,
white is, yeah. How is white
white
losing this?
white decided to give the game to black for no reason, and of course black said thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
White was
That's
like,
right.
and then
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
no,
right.
okay, white loses unfortunately. This game
This
is
is really
not correct. We're still down a rook, but this is obviously not the life position.
yeah.
Um,
We cannot analyze it any further. There's just no
so
point.
we'll retake a look at board 2 because it's Dane versus Nathan. This was the position, so let's go back. So we saw knight here, here, on here, and I like what Dane is doing, trying to create some play. This move is a little weird to me though. Yeah, because it allows this knight to jump in.
I still don't see actually that what is black trying to do still. Yeah, just rook b4, probably a check on b6, or I think even that is not necessary. Probably you just take the pawn on b7. Or you give rook g6 check. Oh my god, there are so many moves for white. As black, what would you want to achieve from this?
I think, yeah, rook
Yeah, rook
g6, then you go
g6.
rook
Yeah,
d6.
makes sense.
I think
Yes,
you go rook
exactly.
d6
If black goes
to
king d5, I would want to go rook d6. Otherwise, I will just pick up another pawn on h6. I don't see any counterplay from black side.
yeah, I don't either. I think this game is all but over. I think white is going to win this.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely correct.
This game is over. This game is over. Okay, so this one, yeah, they gave up the exchange. So here, queen here, and then takes.
Okay, this is also actually over. Just rook g3 and good game.
Rook g3, bishop g6.
Oh, okay, you can push f5 or whatever you want to
Yeah,
go. You can play king f2, king e3, whatever.
yeah, f5 is I think the cleanest. I missed f5.
Yeah, f5 is really
Okay, but
straightforward.
instead we see a3, which actually I think gives some hope after king to g6. Now I'm not actually sure.
Okay, but okay, it's still winning, but this was just not at all necessary. A3 is just a dumb move. Okay, but I see that white does not have time, so they might just not have spotted rook g3.
Yeah, they have 45 seconds to win this game. Yeah, rook g3 I think is just a classy move, but you need to have some time just to make sure it all works.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We'll look at this one. So this one, yeah, we saw king e3, and then for some reason we went rook to b2 check. Yeah, rook b2 is just not what you want to do. You want to go e5 here, or maybe even f4 or g4 or something like that. You're trying to push your pawns here. This is not the time to be giving checks.
Yeah,
This
I would
is the
agree
time
with
to
you.
be trying to promote. And now in this position, maybe you go rook b1, and then it's the same idea as earlier, but now the king is one square away. But you did also waste one tempo to get the king's one square away.
As it
So
doesn't really matter. Yeah. But it's like obviously you don't want to give checks at that point. I would definitely agree with you. You would just want to push your pawns as fast as you can.
but remember, just remember, you are like a 2350, 2400, somewhere around there, and these guys are nuts, right? So even though it's maybe easy to you and
Right.
maybe to me, but this is not an easy end game. It does sound very easy when you say, of course, this is the idea, but of course is
Okay,
only
over the
because
board there are a lot of things. There are moves, there are calculation. And most importantly, this is a game of nerves, right? At this point, you're just really terrified, like how to do it, how to win it, or even I wouldn't be surprised if it was white that would be terrified here, because the C pawn is really close, and you haven't even started rolling your pawns as white.
Yeah, exactly. So it it does it is an easy game to win, but only if you know. And that's the trick.
Oh yeah,
So
that's right.
we're saying like why did they play rook to b2, but rook b2 is a very understandable move, especially if you're not sure what to do. Just because you see it's not losing. Yeah, and c3, and now this is maybe even starting to get scary. But what you have to realize as white is that e5 and f4 are coming too fast. And these pawns are gonna roll. And because the king is completely cut off and it can't get in front of the pawns, white should be winning.
I think white should be winning, but I think we need to calculate a bit. Okay,
Well, no,
c3. Let's
I
say
mean,
we
even if
start
you start
e5, king
king b2,
b3.
rook c1, king b2, rook e or f, it doesn't really matter. And then you go f4, and then after c2, you go e6, rook d8, and then you go f5. And if you see rook to d1, you have rook to f2 or rook to e2 or whatever, and the
Yeah,
king is
that's
pinned.
right. There are no tricks. There are no tricks. Yeah.
Yeah, and the trick is you have the pin, and now your pawns are one move away from getting to the third rank. And there's a saying, pawns on the sixth can't be stopped, or pawns on the third can't be stopped. Both are the same thing, but in this case, it's pawns on the sixth. Once you get your two pawns on the sixth, a rook cannot stop one of them from queening. So
Yes,
it's
correct.
just gonna be
Absolutely right. Yeah.
it's just gonna be trivial at that point. And White has to do all of this calculation before they play the move. They shouldn't do it quickly, but and
Okay, white has enough time, I would say, to calculate all of that stuff.
yeah, you should concretely do what we just did, except in your head, right? You don't want to let your opponent know, oh, you can play this move. But yeah,
Yeah,
once they
obviously.
calculate all this out,
Yeah,
this
right.
is this is yeah, this is a concrete end game. I have actually done that by mistake once. I was calculating and I was saying the moves out loud when I was trying to do it in my head. I mean, of course it was a whisper, but my opponent after the match said I didn't even see, like, I don't know, bishop d4. Thanks for letting me know. And I was very confused, but this was a funny mistake I made when I was back in high school. Yeah, okay. This position is completely lost. We're gonna see knight takes c4 here, and there's really no hope. In fact, yeah, there's resignation. Black wins. Um, and then
Yeah.
back to the Nathan game. We're still down a rook, but this is also still not a life position. So there's really only one more game to follow seriously in this section, and then one more in the open section as well. But okay, yeah, this is too easy. You take the f5 pawn, no nonsense. Yeah,
Okay,
you
white has
go
several ways to play. You
f5,
just take the
you take
f5 pawn, yeah.
and then you go rook to f7, and then you take the b7 pawn with the other rook, and it's just what to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, black does not have anything to do here.
Yeah. And if you want to be mean, you can even go rook takes b7, and then after rook to b2, king to c3, rook
Yes,
takes
you
rook,
can do
king to
that.
c5. It's still winning because you have three pawns, and that's actually might be what I did just because I know it's winning, and that I think is the easiest endgame to win.
Yes, even I would agree with you.
And the computer might like say, "Oh, that's terrible. You're giving up an exchange." But what you have to recognize is we're facing a human. We're not facing a computer. And I also have 1 minute left, and time is ticking. I actually have under a minute. So the easiest endgame is the endgame I need to play.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I'm really concerned for Nate here. I think Nate will be able to hold it. And here he comes running. You can see him in the camera. But
Yeah.
it's making me nervous. He's down to 40 seconds, and time is still ticking. So yeah, and he goes king to c3.
Okay, but
Which
it is
is
still
also a
fine.
very sensible move.
Yeah.
And actually, king to c3 might be unneeded. I actually, now that I look at it, rook to g6, and how do you stop Nate? But now rook g6.
Okay, I looked at these rook g6 ideas, but I just thought that okay, I can still take that pawn on b7, for instance, or I can play moves like rook e5. That is what I was also considering. Just
And rook e5 is
exchange.
just a really solid, no nonsense. You can't beat me. Whatever move, right?
Okay, but
So,
if I was black, probably I would just go rook c2 check, rook c1. It is not forcing me to exchange rooks. Okay, but
yeah,
if I was black, I would not continue this game. That is for sure. But okay.
yeah, and we do see rook c2, king b3 or king d4.
E3.
Yeah, b3 definitely seems more principled. So I would say b3, but I think both have merit. No, yeah, I mean they both have merit, but yeah, king b3 is the principled play. So I think it's what we should see. And Nate is again under 1 minute, not at the board. So I'm really nervous for Nate here.
Okay, the
Again,
only
Nate,
thing that can happen bad for white here is that after king b3, rook c1, you just go king b2 and fall for knight d3, which is a draw then.
yeah, yeah. This is the only real trick.
If I was white, I would just take the knight on e1. I would just take, okay, I cannot take the pawn on b7. That is still tricky. Okay, yeah. Okay, probably I'll just take the knight on e1, then I'll go king c4, and I think I'm winning. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm winning.
he took the knight, and then rook takes immediately played, and now I suspect we're going to see something like, I don't know, king to
King
c4.
c4 or d5 also. I mean,
I think king
whatever.
c4 just to shield yourself from any checks, and this is I think irresponsible. You should be blitzing this considering your time, because
Yes.
king to c4 cannot be run. It is impossible for king to c4 to be run, and we see it on the board.
Yes.
And now Nathan has a minute and a half, but I think this was some irresponsible time usage by Nate. Yeah, king c4. We see rook to e7. Now you should go a5, a6, and trade.
Okay, whatever. You can also start with d5, d6.
Yeah, anything wins. You just got to play it quickly.
Yeah,
Again,
that's
and
right.
we see rook
Okay,
to
rook
e6.
g6. Yeah, rook g6 is also a good move, I would say.
And then we're probably going to see something like rook to g1.
Yes, definitely.
And yeah, the idea of rook to g1, by the way, why we came up with it so quickly is because the only real way that black is going to be able to hold a position like this is to get the king blockading the pawns. And so what we're doing by putting our rook on g1 is we're creating a wall along this g file that the king can never step past. And if
Exactly.
we try and step past it by trading off a rook, this is a winning pawn endgame. That's just going to be really, really easy for someone who's a master like Nate. So by going rook g1, we're making sure that there's no blockade, and we're keeping this a very trivial win.
Yeah, right. It's just game over for black right now. There's no hope remaining. There are no tricks
You
left.
say game over, but 2 minutes, right? So if you flag, you do lose because a rook is mating material, and that's all you need. You just need mating material. It doesn't matter how winning your opponent is. If you run out of time, that's it. And Nate's running back. He's showing us athletic side, and you can see him
All
physically
right.
running the board.
All right. But okay, in this position, it's like even if you just move with your king 3-4 times, you're still winning.
Yeah, you can even give up one of these pawns and be winning. You can take off any one of these pawns and it's still winning, actually. Which is
But
the case.
you don't want to give up the d pawn right now. You don't just
If
take
you give up the
make
d pawn,
things.
it's winning. It's still winning. It's just not as winning. And
It
next
is still winning, but you just don't want to do that.
we see a repeat of the position, which I actually really like that the repeats, because there is no rush to make things happen right away. Just repeat, stay calm, get a little bit extra time on your clock, and then try to. And so we see repeat, and now we see king d5. And king d5, the idea is to go king d6, and then you go pawn to d3. So what I expect here is probably something like pawn to a5 or king to d6. Or actually,
I think king d6 will be played. King d6, rook b4, pawn d5, and I think
you
it's
can't
more or
even take
less.
that. No, we see pawn to c6, which same idea. Pawn c6. We're going to see a trade. We're going to see d5, d6, d7, d8 queen, and then we're going to see a rook and king checkmate. And this is
Yeah, probably.
unfortunately it's incredibly trivial. So
Yes, white, I would not want it to play c6, but okay, everything is winning. It's just like,
yeah,
it's your choice, however you
yeah. I
want to
mean,
do it.
at this point, there's nothing left for Dane to play, but Dane will
Even
play on. Dane wants to see, maybe in the time trouble, Nathan makes a precarious move, but Nathan is up to 3 minutes.
uh,
So I'm really liking his chance. And Nathan running away on his move. He's confident that he's going to be able to win this in less than 3. Which, I mean, I think he's right, but I'm surprised he didn't make a move just to get that additional 30. Okay, and he comes back quickly. He comes back very quickly.
yeah.
And he pushes his pawn. So there we go.
But there are no tricks remaining. It is really simple. This is really simple.
Yeah,
You
I
just
think we're
don't need to
gonna
do
see
anything.
rook a6, king d5, king e6, rook a6, king e7. Just random
Yeah,
checks,
right,
pins,
right.
and we're gonna sort the pawn. Because Dane is gonna try and make it as hard as he can, and he should try and make it as hard as he can. But the problem is there is no counterplay. There's nothing.
There's nothing at all. It's just really easy.
Yeah. You have one trick. Maybe you go like rook to a2.
And then if I push the
And then
pawn,
try and perpetual behind. But the problem is white has rook to g8, and then they can queen, and then they can run their king up.
actually, white has a lot of ideas to win in this. Let's say if you go rook a2, I push, you give a check. Eventually, I get my king on d8. You have a rook on d2, and I have rook g8. I have rook e1. I have rook c1. Black's king is very much far away.
Yeah, there are a lot of winning ideas, but there are also a few sneaky drawing ideas. And if your opponent gets too low, Dane has about 50 minutes, so you could
Yeah.
definitely see. Oh. So it looks like Dane resigns in this position, which
Okay.
I thought he would have played it out, but this
Okay,
makes
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah, makes
This
sense.
means that I believe all of the premier games
Are
are
over,
over.
I believe.
And here's
Yeah.
Ryan versus Porphy, and it looks like
Again, this is
Ryan.
also over, I believe. Black has just put up the kings in between, or what has happened there. Yeah.
Putting your king on e5 doesn't make sense because that would mean
Yes,
that
I see 1-0 there. I see 1-0. Yeah. White has won this.
Yeah. Okay. White wins, and this one is still being played, but this looks a lot closer than it should be. What happened?
This is
Okay.
not. Oh my
This
God! You cannot just play. You cannot just play rook
This
c3.
is a terrible choice. And just conceptually, it's terrible because we can go e5, and then after king b3, we can go rook to c1, and then after king to b2, then we go rook to f1, and now black has to go c2, c1. We got 3 extra moves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I absolutely agree with you. This is just terrible. This is just terrible. You just do not play rook c3 right away.
It may still be winning, but you also can't
No,
go.
this is not winning. This is not winning.
King to e6 is also really bad. You have to go king to d6.
Now
And
I
it
would be
is
terrified. I would be really terrified now because you can also lose this now, actually.
I find it hard to say they're going to lose it, but I actually think it's still winning because you're shouldering. But I think this is going to
Just
require instant decision.
how can you win this? Let's just assume what to assume. Let's say if I just go king d5, for instance.
Then I go e6.
Okay, if you go e6, I have rook c6. If you go e7, I have rook e6, and I won one pawn, and I'm winning. Then definitely.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot go e6. You can if you're not going to play e6, if you go g4 something, then probably I'll go rook c8, I'll go rook f8 check, and then I'll bring my king to e6. Black is winning this if he gets this idea.
No, because if you do this, I'll go g5, rook f8, and then I think I have king g6. And then after it takes king h7. No, but then you check me. Yeah.
No. That's really slow, right? Why
That's
just
right.
allow Black's king to come back to play? That was not at all necessary.
Yeah, but like I said, we were saying earlier, this is so easy, but looking at this is not easy. So
Yeah, that's right.
okay, we see rook to c8, which I don't think is quite right.
I think this allows e6.
Yeah, I think so too.
I
But like we're
think,
saying, this is not easy by any means.
yeah, that's right. I think king d5 was necessary. I'm not sure if. Okay, e6, and then if we play king d5, is it still winning for Black? What are your thoughts?
So okay, if we go e6 here, you're saying?
Yes, if we go e6 and then still Black goes king d5, what is happening? Because
This
if
is
you go
probably
e7, I have rook e8.
no. I'm not gonna go e7. I go king f6. This is my only
Okay,
play.
if you go king f6, then I have rook f8 check. Okay, rook f8 check, king g7, rook f4, e7.
Draw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Is
and
there
the reason,
any?
by the way, we say king to g7 and not king to e7 staying connected to the pawn is because after rook takes f4, we're gonna go e7, and then after rook to e4, then we're either going to give a check, probably check up on f4, or we're gonna sack our rook and then go king e4, king f4, king g3, king takes g2, and this is a draw. And if we stepped our king onto
Still not.
e7, black is probably winning because then we catch the pawn because we're not able to push it as quickly.
Huh?
Yeah, this was just not great endgame technique.
No, this was
Really
terrible. This was terrible. I would agree.
maybe g3 and you're still somehow doing something. Maybe you go king to e6 here. Wait, king to e6. Maybe king e6 actually. Wait a minute.
In this position, you want to go king e6?
Yeah, because I have g3 to hold the f pawn.
King
And then the
e6
rook.
might allow you to draw.
No, king e6 and white may actually be winning.
How is
King
white
e6
winning?
pretty fine.
Not able to see. Let's say king e6, I am playing king e4,
g3,
and now I go rook g8.
and now I go king to f7.
Okay, see, the simplest way for me to play now is to just play king e5, king g8, king f5, take every pawn, and then king f5, king g4 probably.
Yeah.
I can just take every pawn with the king. That is the easiest way to draw.
Okay. Yeah. Very tricky.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, why just gave away the point for free, I would say. What is rook c3? But okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, rook c3 is just I'd probably label it maybe even a double question mark because it went from completely winning to maybe even lose, but I still think it's drawn. No.
I'm not sure. Okay, but before rook c8, I was sure that I think after king d5, black might be winning. I'm just not.
Yeah, after king to d5, I think it's definitely going to be harder. So yeah, king d5, maybe you.
Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
see any good. King where?
f6.
King f6, maybe. Yeah, that is a good choice.
Probably still drawn.
Yes. Let's just think about for a minute. Probably rook
probably
c6
still
check is forced.
And then king f7.
Yeah,
And probably drawn.
yeah, might be. Yeah, right.
Yep. So we see here, and we see king e6, and I think this is going to be the best attempt at anything. But
Yeah, probably.
like you were saying earlier, rook g8 or king e4 or any of these moves. King e4 is probably the
Yeah, king e4 just holds every pawn, right? It just holds the f and g pawn, and then the only pawn that you have to take care of is the e pawn. But
exactly.
it does not come to that also, actually.
That's fine because we don't actually need the camera. But yeah, I mean this king to e6 idea. I think gives you the best chances. But
Yeah.
there's really nothing. But black also down to 30 seconds. So maybe white does swindle this, especially considering how many back and forth airs we've been seeing. It's always possible. Always possible that we're gonna see some blunder because I mean the only thing I studied, yeah, and we see rook to G8, which actually may be losing after king to f7. Yeah, king f7 on the board. So we may no, okay, takes, and then after e6 we go rook
I
f2,
think.
and then we take with check. So still the draw. So
Yeah.
instead,
Right.
we might have wanted to see king to f6 instead, but no, because we still have king to e4. So no, I think this was always just a draw.
Yeah. This is always just a draw. I would definitely agree with you here.
Yeah, and now
The
now goes
black's king is really close. The point is that you just made a terrible blunder with rook c3 there. It just allowed black's king to rush in.
exactly. But we could always see a blunder, like maybe we see, I don't know, king to e4 here trying to chase down the pawn, or maybe we see rook to g4 instead of rook to f2. I mean,
Or
I think
maybe
rook
rook
to
e2
f2
there.
definitely
Who knows?
it's screaming to be played, but
Rook f2 is the only move here,
yeah,
as
and
far as
it's
I can see
screaming to
here.
be played. It's like screaming to be played. So I think it'll be
Yeah,
on the
that's
board.
right.
But
Yeah, even I feel rook f2 won't be missed here by the black player.
I don't either. And once we see rook f2, you can almost call this a draw. Just put on a blindfold, make some random moves. It'll be easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's too easy, and that's the issue.
Yeah, that's right.
So a fantastic hold by the black pieces here. I really, yeah, and we see rook f2.
And rook f2 there.
I really didn't think that we were gonna see a draw. I thought white was gonna put this one away, but no. I mean, black created pressure, and white wasn't able to handle it.
White just crumbled down, yeah. White just crumbled down. White just did not make the right choices at the right time.
Yeah, and I have a feeling we're gonna see a handshake pretty soon. I'm actually surprised they haven't already stopped the clock because this is so easy. But yep. So let's go back.
And there were very interesting games today that were played, I
Yeah,
would say.
definitely a lot of interesting games. The board one was a pretty quick win by Miles, just winning with this trick in the middle game, with the knight to f7 trick not quite working because of the bishop c5. So very nice play after e2 and then bishop c5. Really not a lot left to do after this trade
But this
trade,
was, yes, this was really clean. This was really clean. I was really
and then
impressed by
Miles
this game. Yeah.
off a bunch of pawns exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So very nice by Miles. The next one by Nathan and Dane. Dane, we were thinking was maybe a little worse, and then started to play some really accurate moves and got an edge. But Nate was just able to hold it together, and eventually Nate found a trick to win an exchange, and that's all it takes. One exchange, and it's over. So in this position, Nate
Yes,
just sacked his
exactly.
queen. And from here, it's just he's off the exchange, and he went on to convert a very pretty endgame. The next one was just this was a miniature, just
This was too good.
really ambitious right from the start. And
Yeah.
Albert is one of the lowest rated players in the field, so it makes sense. But this h4 move, actually don't think it works, but I think practically speaking, it's very hard to play against. So I think this was a maybe a practically good choice. I think you can take and go king f7, and you're surviving. But it's also really hard to figure this out, especially when you're facing such a strong player.
Yes, you
So
need to
very nice.
calculate it really accurately, but it was a cool game, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Albert rushed here with a 3-minute move, but that happens. Albert is a very young player, and he'll learn eventually when to slow down because this is definitely a critical position.
Yeah, that's
Especially
right.
you should sense this, especially when the white player uses 30 minutes to play this one move here, which I would have just snapped the knight after about 5-10 minutes of just making sure I'm not being mated. Because otherwise I am being mated, right? It's just going to be over. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
Eddie went on to win a nice game, forcing some mistakes out of Albert, and eventually resignation here because of this knight to d5 fork. Here, it says that Norm timed out in this position. No, now it says he just resigned. Um, I do have a feeling there was more to this game than just this, but this is all we
But
have.
okay,
So, but in this position, clearly white is better, just because there's no real way to
yes,
defend the black lane.
this was just a beautiful game. Yeah.
Yep. Over here, Ryan was just able to keep on pushing and pushing, and Torfi didn't find this very critical move back on
The bishop
this
f5, which was
position.
really necessary. Yeah.
Instead of rook to e8, I think bishop to f5 was you needed to play it here. Just to
You just need to stop the knight
next.
g4. Yeah.
And yeah, if you find bishop f5, I think this is a completely different story. But it's also very hard to find this move. So I don't exactly fault black. I just think that this is maybe the critical position. And then Ryan, even though he has 60 seconds from this position, ended up converting the rest of the game. And he played it so incredibly well that he ended up winning. So very nice job to Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
this
I
position,
see.
we finally see a draw. This was the one we were looking at earlier. We push, takes, check here,
All
and
right.
then
And
draw.
there's a handshake. Yeah.
Yep, there's a handshake. I would have just played it since there's one move left. Rook takes, king takes, yeah. But same thing. But this one, yeah, just I think the nerves really got to white because back in this position, we saw the inexplicable rook takes c3, which is just a move you never play in this position. You go e5, you go f4, you go g4, even g3. Any move except for rook takes pawn, I think is still wins. So
Yes,
this
I
was
would
just
definitely agree with you. Yeah.
I think this is just a panic move. But that happens, especially when you're facing, a very strong player, and this is a pass pawn. There's nothing opposing it, and it's very far down the board. But yeah, slow playing in this position with e5, I think is the way to go. But very well played by black, and sometimes this happens. So this
Yeah,
next
it does
one,
happen. Nerves just get to you.
this next one,
Oh my god, this
probably.
was a terrible turnaround. This was a
Yeah,
terrible turnaround.
this was a really surprising turnaround. So back in the opening, we'll come here. White was just going to be winning a full piece basically. In this position, not this one. In this position, rook takes e6. I believe is just 1-0. White wins because you're threatening
Yes,
checkmate on the
it's
back
just
rank,
winning.
and there's really not a lot to do. But we don't see this, and we make small inaccuracies here and there, and all of a sudden, this is not so accurate. In this position, you have to go queen to a8, and after king to f8, you go bishop to c6, and after
And then you
queen
just
to
swap every piece.
c7, you swap everything. This is a winning pawn again. But instead, we swap here, and now there are tricks, and those tricks ended up costing us the game. Yeah, and in this position, inexcusable. You have to take and then run your a pawn, but it's only inexcusable if you've studied these types of positions. I will be fair. But yeah, if white didn't start trying to defend, I think white would have won this. But yeah, very big turnaround and quite a shocking finish. Just to see what I thought was a trivial position turn into a trivial position, but for the other side. So
Yeah, that's
um,
right.
this game, I'm not so sure what happened. I'm going to assume. Okay, yeah, it says black won. Of course, black did not win in this position because we're missing a rook. Something went wrong in the broadcast. We in this instead of taking the queen, the broadcast got rook c8. I promise you that did not happen. This is the national
Definitely
master.
this not happen. Yeah.
What happened is probably swap, and then
Probably
after
bishop
the here
g6.
it takes, and then the game went from here. But unfortunately, we don't have the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's all the games. This was a very very tense night. A lot of very interesting games, a few very fast games, a few miniatures, but all around pretty good chess.
It
Uh,
was a very eventful day overall, I would say.
yeah.
And
Well, thank you
with
so much
very
for
interesting
commenting.
games. Yeah, it was my okay. I'm just happy to be here. It was really good to commentate with you. And thanks for having me here. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think that's it for tonight. Since all the games are done,